Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m., and I'm going to now call the City Council regular meeting for Wednesday, July 1st, to order. Again, everybody probably understands why they're sitting in the areas that they're sitting, but just remind you, do the best you can with social distancing. If you come up to our podium, which is not this podium, but the one with the mic on it, that's the table. If you go up to that, pay attention to your route up there, since you're not getting too close to folks. Trying to do the best you can. I see you have masks as well, and that will help a lot as you're walking up there. If it's your call if you wear a mask when you're talking at the podium, if you talk at the podium, but you don't have to. Certainly don't have to, and it might be easier for us to understand you. Hand sanitizing stations all around, and we will be wiping stuff down in between people speaking and all that as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out to this City Council meeting. Roll call, all council are present. Thank you, council, for being here. And if you would, everyone stand and join me in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 4, city employee recognitions and employee introductions. Ms. Kane?
We have one thank you that was received by the police department from Maine Glass and Mirror Company. They said, "The world has gone crazy. I'm sorry for how that's hurting you. Thank you all for what you do." And then employee recognitions, employee anniversaries during the month of July. Richard McMahon, 12 years. Kat Balby, 2 years. And Officer Brian Pilata, 7 years.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you
You're welcome.
to the 3 folks that we're recognizing this month. Yeah, great people, and obviously their smiling faces reminds us how all this stuff gets done. It's not by accident that all these things that we do in the city happen in the fashion that they do. Moving on to item number 5, I have citizen comment period. I have one person that signed up to speak, and it is Mr. Shelby Trial.
Shelby Trial, 21657, Wastewater Circle. No one's going to... Well, start over completely.
Yes, please.
Shelby Trial, 21657, Forest Water Circle. I had no plans of coming up here this evening. I had communicated something to all of council, but today I had a visitor, and it was Danny Correa. And Danny Correa had posted something recently on the Garden Ridge, Keep Garden Ridge Positive Facebook site, where he was talking about a major Albertson and how people should go by his house after the parade and honk their horns because he just came back from an extended deployment. And I thought, what a neat idea. And I commented about, I'm sure going to miss the ice cream that he sponsored every year. So today he brings by a box of ice cream. So I thought that was really nice. And he kind of inspired me, like, okay, well, let's do something. Let's get this done. You know, I've learned from Council McCall that the best speech is a short speech. And so that's what I plan to do. And I'm not eloquent like our founding fathers, and I don't claim to be, and unfortunately for you, you're just going to have to put up with it. As I look across the dais and in the room, I see a lot of people here who have served this country and put on a uniform, still put on the uniform, to protect our liberties. And not having a parade this year, the 244th anniversary of our country, and about the 48th anniversary of the city, to my knowledge, we've never missed celebrating the 4th of July in some form or fashion, even when they were rained out. I think we still did something. So to hear that there's discussion that we won't have at least a parade this year, I just find that hard to believe and understand, especially with what's going on in this country now. We're tearing down our history when we should be honoring our history. And we're letting people get away with this stuff. And I want to just say, stand up for America, and let's do something that recognizes our ability to celebrate the 4th of July. So we even have as our Grand Marshal, retired General Chuck Elia. He's 99 years old. He ain't afraid of no COVID. Let's get out there and do this stuff. Follow your rules as the police, as the city dictates. Don't make anybody from the city that doesn't want to be there go. Nobody in the city is compelled to have to attend. It's all voluntary. Don't shut down their freedom to at least come and have a parade. If they don't want to come, they don't have to. But vote to keep the parade. I did write down some other things. I'm thinking, I've got a son that's in the military, and I could just see him saying, Captain, I don't want to go out today. I might drown, or I might catch something, and I don't think he's going to be able to get away with that. So let's honor these people and observe these liberties that they are out there defending. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's the only person that we had signed up. So moving on to item number 6, the consent agenda. Council, you received a couple of things in the email to give you a little bit more information, and your package on the consent agenda, give you time to take a look at it. And at this time, find out, is there anything that y'all need to pull from the consent agenda and discuss? Right side? Anybody? Left side? Okay. So that said, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, so second. Motion from place 2, a second from place 1. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of the consent agenda being approved as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, staff reports. Council, in the interest of not having to go kind of back and forth with some of these folks, we've done the same thing. We added at the end of every one of their reports the item that says continuity of operations. So they'll speak to you about what they're doing, have been doing, what they are looking at with continuity of operations and dealing with the situation, the COVID situation. But we'll start out by going to our city administrator.
I'd like to report, I don't have anything other to add to my report other than just a couple of announcements here. Our June 13th shred event was a huge success. We had approximately 200 cars that pulled up with documents to be shredded, and there were approximately 6,000 pounds of paper shred, which filled the truck. The sponsor, which was Suzanne Kuntz Real Estate, has already stated that she would like to also sponsor the same event next year. So I thought that was wonderful. Also, I'd like to announce that the June 3rd, 2020 City Council meeting has had 45 views. So citizens are watching our council meetings via the streaming. I would like to call on our finance HR, Karen Ford, to provide you an update about her area as it relates to continuity of services and COVID-19 and anything else she would like to report.
Good evening. You're looking at the report that's on your screens right now. We haven't had much change between last month and this month. Overall, we've had an increase for what we've spent, COVID-related, of $1,576. And the main increase for that is going to be under the expenditures, about halfway down, the public safety line. That's gone up by $656. And then the other line I want to point out is the employee hours due to public health and safety task. That's gone up $710. That's where we're going to see the increase month after month. That's for the people that are cleaning the building. It's all public safety related, cleaning the playground equipment. And those hours will all be claimed back with FEMA, and hopefully we'll get a 75% reimbursement for those. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, starting on the right side, questions for HR Finance. Side. And before we go to admin, I want to see if there's any questions for the city administrator's part of the report that she gave. Starting on the left side, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I'd like our city secretary, Marissa Spencer, to report on admin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So in admin, we haven't had much changes from the last time that I talked to y'all about our continuity of operations. We are open in the lobby still from 9 to noon, and then we're available anytime between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday by appointment. That seems to be going pretty well. We haven't had anybody that we really haven't been able to accommodate at any time because we're here. I did update last month on our payment feature that we were adding, so you can now, which is now up and running, you can pay by phone your utility bill. The phone number is a totally different number. We don't want it to go through the city's line. It's its own phone number, and it's a recorded message when you call it. So the number is posted on our website and our Facebook page as there's a post. I was gonna make a post on Nextdoor. I wanted to wait until today when the bills were actually posted so that people would actually have their accounts updated on there, because once you call, you can get your account information, but you wouldn't have updated information until we post the bills. So if anybody wants to know the phone number, I can let you know of it, or you can look it up. They came with these little flyers. We didn't find they were very useful to stuff in the water bills, so we put it in the Grapevine as its own little article that talks about it. But that is up and running. I wanted to give y'all an update on that. And then also on an update on our utility clerk position. We hired a utility clerk, and 3 days later, we did not have a utility clerk, and so we are hiring again for a utility clerk. That's where we are.
Starting on the right side, questions for admin. Sir.
Who ran off our new utility clerk?
I wish I knew, but she just said that she did not feel it was a good fit for her.
Guess we found out
Sure. Ma'am, any questions? No, anything else for admin?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Moving on now to Police Department. Chief.
Thank you. Most all the information is contained in the monthly report. You will see that we did slightly increase some of our traffic contacts over the previous month of May. We are still maintaining PPE and our protocols for safety on that and limiting that. We did have our first municipal court last week for the first time in several months. Through efforts with Lieutenant Bellinger, working with our municipal court judge and the Office of Court Management with their guidelines, a set of protocols was put in place so that as they arrived, we had a medical screening station outside to ensure that before they even got out of their cars and approached the building, they were medically sound. There were some turned away showing symptoms. So that part worked. We had stations along the way where they were spaced out, security checked before they entered the lobby. They were told where to go. Seats were assigned. It was a slow enough flow that we never filled capacity in here and never had to worry about that. And they were directed where to go, and everything was cleaned. As soon as somebody got up, walked out, that chair was removed and a sterile chair put in. The windows were wiped down by Public Works as soon as they left the court windows, so everything ran flawlessly for that. But I did want to let y'all know that we have had one. Not sure what it'll do this month. Not sure what's going to happen. We take our guidance from the state on that. So, but I want to let you know that went through. Our new officer is still in training. He just progressed to phase 3, so he's now on his last phase of training. It's taking a little bit longer because of the COVID-related items going on, but we are getting him through there. We want to make sure that we get him exposed to everything we need to for proper documentation of our training program and so forth. It's not any negative outlook on him. It's just we need a little bit more time because of the restrictions that we're under right now. We're doing it the safe way. And in line with what Ms. Ford was saying about expenses going up, we do have in place, vehicles are cleaned at the beginning and end of every shift. We keep times, we keep spreadsheets, so all of that stuff will from the police department also be turned over to finance so that we can get reimbursed for all those COVID-related tasks. So some of that will come back in the future. So I just wanted to put that in as part of our COVID response as well. That's all I have, sir.
Thanks, sir. Starting left side, questions, comments for PD?
No, sir.
Sir? Sure.
You did replace an officer that just quit?
We
You
have
a new officer?
We have one officer that started 2.5, 3 months ago now. I just haven't been able to.
I didn't hear that on a.
I haven't, yeah, it was announced. I haven't been able to get him in here with all the restrictions where he can come up and introduce properly and all that. He's dying to do it with his family, and as soon as I can get him in here, I will get him in here to you.
Okay, thank
We
you.
still have 2 slots.
Ma'am? Sir? Yeah, I wish you could, we should have video recorded the operation of the court. It would do your heart good. It was impressive to me being, with my background and the way I think things should go, to watch Lieutenant Bellinger run the operation. It was a pretty tight ship, and it was really very smooth, and all of the officers involved were on top of things and very quick to act, and it was very impressive, very impressive. And then to add to that, it wasn't just about the police department, it was also about our public works folks and admin folks. Our court folks, admin folks, doing a great job making sure that everything was all the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed, and everything was teed up and ready to go. And there was a lot of work to make that all happen with the shifts, if you will, of people that were scheduled, and making sure that everybody understood what was going on. And then with Public Works, the operation of cleaning everything every time somebody touched anything, it was like watching ball boys at a I don't know if they still call them that, but the ball people at a tennis match when they run out and grab the ball, how efficient, and nobody sees them. And that's what our Public Works was cleaning. We're cleaning things and making sure that everything was where it was supposed to be. And they did a fantastic job before, during, and after. And so everybody on the team really made that operation look easy. And I can guarantee you it was far, far from easy. And it consumed a lot of people's time for quite a while. So thank you to everybody I mentioned. Another thing, Chief, thank you for, I know that your officers have been paying attention more and helping out with folks in the neighborhoods that are, during this time have been spending a lot more time walking and playing and in the neighborhoods and in the streets, and keeping an eye on that, keeping people grounded with speed and keeping track of stuff, and knock on wood, we've been very successful with that, but a lot of effort on your all's part. And then the last thing, Council, I want to let you know that there's a lot going on with law enforcement in this nation right now. So I met with all of the officers in here and just had a frank talk with them, told them that how important they are to this community, how important they are to the citizens of this community, to the operations of this community, to all of us up here, and that it proves out in the way we organize and equip our officers and our department, and that as far as I was concerned, there was nothing that was going to change that. I was full disclosure. I told them you guys are the ones that make those decisions, but that there's never been any indication from anybody up here of anything but full and complete respect and support for our police. And the chief and I thought it was important for them to hear that from somebody other than the chief. But and they asked a few questions, but it was a good session, and just wanted you to know that we're paying attention, and we care about the men and women that we have serving in our police department. Anybody have any other questions or comments about any of this?
I probably was to speak for everybody here, but as long as I'm on council, there will be no reduction in our police department, period.
Thank you.
I think I have everybody else's backing too on that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Next up is Public Works. Mr. Steinmetz. Item 7E.
Good evening. Public Works has been continuing their efforts to keep the parks, equipment, and benches clean daily. We'll even go out there on the weekends and clean them once a day just to make sure that they're a little bit sanitized. We continue doing our cleaning of the buildings a couple times a day to keep everybody safe. We repaired a pump this month on the aerobic system. We have 3 dogs currently. 2 are adoptable. One's still on the, there that is up there, that gray one right there. He's adoptable, and we have cats also. And that's all I have to mention.
Tell them about the dumpsters on the 4th as well.
Oh, yes. The dumpsters are going to be for July, every weekend through this weekend, for this month. July 4th will be starting at 12 o'clock.
Okay, thank you very much. Left side, questions, comments for Public Works?
I'm just assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that the increase in the deer in June was the fawns and everybody running crazy, or?
Yes, there's probably several dead fawns that we had to
Okay.
dispose of.
Thank you.
Stephen,
Hang on. Do you have any? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
do we have a count? I think I asked Nancy so I wouldn't catch you all off guard. Do you have a count of how many deer have been killed this past 12 months on Back Hay Road?
On Bat Cave, not currently on with me, but I can backtrack and find out.
Pardon?
I can backtrack our records and find out, but I don't have it currently on this report.
Did you pass that on to him, Nancy?
I must have missed that, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else? Councilman Lancy, anything else? Next up is item 7D, water. Mr. Parsons, on the floor.
Thank you. So I really don't have much to add to the report. I just want to highlight a couple things. Right now with our Edwards water use, we're right at halfway through. Our water loss has gone down in the summer. Water loss tends to go down because you're using more water, so the percentage goes down. And then our workflow management system that we we're implementing, and we're hoping to go live by next month. And so having that going full force. And then on top of that, we also have an AMI scope of work that we're putting together with Tri-Hydro and our water subcommittee in order to be able to bring that to you sometime, hopefully in August, to be looked at. As far as COVID, we're still continuing to do what we've been doing for a while now. We are separating as much as we can. We're trying not to work together if we can. When we are working together, we're wearing masks. We're cleaning every morning and every evening. We are trying to stay in separate vehicles, and we're doing everything we can to be as safe as we can. And with that, I can answer some questions.
Thanks, sir. Questions starting right side. Any questions for Water Department? Sir? Sir? Ma'am? Thank you. Moving on to item 7E, Library.
Oops, sorry. As you can see, our numbers are down just a little bit, but we're not discouraged. We're happy doing what we can do. Children do come in, but they have an appointment time, and they're limited, and we try to keep them spread out as much as we can. Following the restaurant rules, we're down to 50% capacity now, using instead of 75%. The volunteers have really bought into our cleaning protocols. They're excellent about cleaning everything they can. Now, if you do look at our numbers, you'll see people seem to be reading more, especially than they were at the beginning of all of this. I think more people are using electronic books, and there are some people who had resisted the electronic resources, but they've now gotten used to them. I'm sure their kids gave them to them for Christmas, and they were like, no, I want a real book. But they're doing better, and I see that number is going up. We're still open for the public from 10 to 4. We had hoped to stay open later, but with the current spike, we're going to keep it at 4 o'clock. This gives us a lot of time. We do a lot of our own cleaning, not just books, but keyboards, computer keyboards, the bathrooms, the furniture, the doors, everything we can get our hands on. So, do you have any questions for the library?
Thank you, ma'am. Left side, questions, comments for library?
Not question, but every month I get a little smile at what you include, and I keep meaning to tell you, for example, the Chinese proverb you included this month. So I bet you have fun looking for these things, and they always bring a smile.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Did you get my picture today of our teddy bear? Yes.
Sir? Ma'am? Sir? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8, City Engineer Project Status Report. Mr. Lackey.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We're continuing to work with TxDOT on 2252 project. We had a meeting today that got canceled, but we're expecting 60% drawings in August from TxDOT, so we can get a better handle on where potential conflicts are. But based on the 30% drawings, we're working with those, identifying conflicts and trying to gauge the order of magnitude on the city. So continuing to work through that and coordinate that so we can bring back some better information to the city. So on 2252, the wastewater project, again, continuing working on drawings, getting together plans, specifications to move that project farther along, answering questions from developers, and coordinating with various questions that come up as we move forward with rules for the city, rates and tariffs, and moving forward with that as we progress. Be happy to answer any questions or give more detail on any of that.
Okay, starting right side, questions or comments for the city engineer?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Item 9, City Commission Committee Reports, Recommendations, Possible Actions. First of all, Planning and Zoning. Dr. Miller, welcome. Had 2 meetings since last time, well, a meeting and a subcommittee meeting.
Yes,
since the
sir.
last
Good
time we
evening.
met.
We did in fact have 2 meetings. We're still working on the revision of the ordinance. We're getting real close. We're into the last, I think, 30 pages or so. We're actually to the part of the document that has to do with definitions. And we're going to go through those and make sure they marry up with the rest of the document. And there's no deviations from what is meant in the document and what the definitions of each word is. Not each word, but the important words. When we're finished with that, we should have a clean quotation marks document, and everything should be in order to work out the presentation to City Council. Like I said, we're getting real close. We had another technical committee, and we almost got there. We met for like 5 hours, but we still couldn't get all the way home to finish it up. The city attorney, her review is pretty much completed except for the definitions. One of the big sticking points, in my opinion, was we got some places in the document where planning and zoning was written as the deciding authority, and that's not right. The city council is deciding authority. We're just a recommending body, and we had to clean that up a little bit. But we're moving right along, and I think sometime this summer we should be able to get squared away enough that we can get it to city council. The other presentation we had at our meeting was basically a follow-on presentation by Mr. Overman for his proposed or his kind of development on 2252 and 3009 where the old driving range was. He wants to put some garden homes in there. He couldn't get into any real big detail because he's got more detail. They didn't present it all to us. It's just all preliminary. But he's talking about 70 homes in that area. It looked pretty good on paper. He's trying to get us pinned down to whether or not we thought it would fly to the council. We had to resist several times from giving him a straight answer, but we want to see what his packet looks like. He hasn't completed the whole packet and submitted it to the city administrator yet. There are going to be some sticking points. Some of it is it's dependent upon the wastewater lines and sewer. It's dependent on variances he needs and special use permits. I think there's 12 or 13 of them he's going to need to get squared away with it. It's going to be a couple of public hearings, and then we'll have a recommendation to City Council. I'll be working with the city administrator to see how much of this we can bring forward to City Council in pieces, so it's not all at one time. And I'm sure Mr. Overman will be coming back to City Council to throw some things at you guys after he gets it run by us. So basically, we're at a point where we're just awaiting the packet to be, the completed packet to be submitted to the city administrator, and when it's complete, the city administrator will present it to the, have Mr. Overman present it to planning and zoning, and we'll go from there. Questions?
Right side, questions for planning and zoning? Okay.
Mr. Overman's property there where the driving range used to be.
Yes, sir.
That was, you all had that plan for a mixed use for zoning? Wasn't that talked about the area where we're going to try to put residential anyhow?
It was not for mixed use, but as it turns out, it's somewhat irrelevant because he's going to be going in under the present ordinance, not the coming ordinance, okay? But in the old ordinance that he's working under, there was, in that ordinance, ability to use for residential.
Well, I guess, if I remember correctly, we were also talking about the new ordinance having that property as potential residential also. So that actually fits right into I believe, what we were talking about.
It fits in that, the way it would have been worked into the new ordinance, I think would have been a PUD or a planned use development more than anything else. The mixed-use area was actually this area closer to the Trophy Oaks subdivision, not across the street at the corner there and the driving range. Okay, but it's doable, let's put it that way.
But that, I guess what I'm saying is that area was originally thought about being an excellent place for the garden homes, and Mr. Overman's chosen that now, which I think was better for us than taking some of our commercial property that we had zoned for that.
Councilman Lancy, I'd have to go back and look, but
Okay.
as I recall, we had it more leaning towards a light industrial than we did mixed use. But again, looking back, we're going by the present ordinance, and it fits in with the present ordinance, and in the future ordinance, it's doable.
Okay, thank you.
Sir? Ma'am?
Perhaps Ms. Kane can help me on this. I think the property way back when was actually going to be Mr. Barranco's retail at that site. He was going to create a one way in, one way out retail development in that, where Mr. Overman is proposing.
The old driving range property is currently the property that edges 2252 and into the property 300 feet is currently zoned B1, which is our retail neighborhood services in our current ordinance. The remainder of the property is zoned B2, which is office and professional in our in our current zoning ordinance. Both categories in our current zoning ordinance allow residential development. So that's where he will have to come in and ask for a special use permit along with quite a few variances to meet that residential development that he is proposing. The current comprehensive land use plan that the council adopted, I think it was 2018, that property was actually forecast to be retail.
I'm not sure if you got an answer to your question.
Just more of clarification, because I know that where that was, but appreciate that.
But there's been a couple of different developers over the years that have looked at that property.
Right.
One of them was going to be more of a office condo type development, and then the last one prior to Mr. Overman was going to be retail front and the condo garages.
Garage condos, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Yes, sir. I know you're putting a lot of work into this, and I personally saw to include Councilwoman Bauer in here working on this and really moving it forward, getting a lot done, and been talking about it a long time, so it'd be easy to go, yeah, we're talking about it a long time. But when you say you're really close to being done, you really are really close to being done. And that's very encouraging, and really appreciate all the work that you're putting into it and that your commission's putting into all of these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is item 9B, Corey. Did not have a meeting, but Chairman Holly's here, so.
How are you? How are you? Well, first I'd like to thank the police department. They do wonderful work, and I really enjoy my officers all around. One of the questions or things that are coming up is the Quarry Commission meeting. We want to have our meeting, but this COVID stuff is really kind of have us thinking about, like, is it safer for us not to, or should we just go ahead and have it? We don't have really anything to present. The quarry has been blasting well below the standards that we've set in the in the ordinance. So, and they've been doing good with that. Every now and again, it gets a little rough, but mainly it's been below that level of concern, if you will. I've complained one time about one blast. Someone else has complained a couple other times about a blast, but in general, it's been going really well. So I'm concerned about, should we really have another meeting, which is scheduled for the 13th of July? I'd like to know, how would you guys feel about it? If we, should we let it go or not?
Well, sir, I'll remind you that it's your decision. You're chair, and looking at whatever you think needs to be done, whatever you think needs to be reviewed, staying connected to the operation, staying connected to any input from citizens and all that stuff is obviously important. But you're the man. You have the authority to make the decision on whether or not you need to have a meeting. If there was an outstanding issue or outstanding action, then we'd have to have a discussion. But I know that right now there isn't. But I'm going to then turn this over to council to see if they have anything to add to that. Starting on your right side, sir, do you have anything to add? Ma'am? Sir.
Mr. Hawley, it's not unusual for the water department occasionally and other commissions to not have a meeting, a monthly meeting, because they have basically nothing to go over, nothing to accomplish. So for you to postpone a meeting till the next 2 months away, there's nothing wrong with that if there's nothing to talk about this time. Probably safer for everybody anyhow.
And that's what it's about. All of the commissioners are willing to be present, but at the same time, they also want to make sure, because most of them are older than me, but they don't want to put it out there.
I think every opportunity we have for limited contact, the better off we are. So.
Exactly. Okay.
Sure. Ma'am?
So I guess you're the only person that gets a summer vacation this year. Congratulations. Possibly.
I can do that. That's all we have. Yep, that's about it.
Chairman Hawley, thank you very much. And as we move forward, if you're looking at what's going on, you want to talk about it, just give us a call, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item 9C, Water Commission.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and council members. Sorry I took 70% of your packet. I noticed that quite a bit of the packet is from the Water Commission. I only put 3 pages in there. I don't know where the rest of them came from. Anyway, apologize for that. I did send out, the information, kind of a summary. I hope you got them in advance to be able to read them. We have 3 leak adjustments to review today. The first one is at 8323 Shining Elk. This is for the billing period of February 20th, 2020 to March 23rd, 2020. The customer was not aware of a leak until they received the April 1st water bill. A plumber found the broken T in the main, the 1-inch water line, main line from the meter to the house. Per laptop readings, the water department determined a 101,000 gallon leak over a 2-month period. 72,000 of which was between February 20th and March 23rd billing period, and 29,000 for the billing period of March 23rd to April 23rd billing period. With the usage of, with the total water usage for February 20th to March 23rd, the leak adjustment, was adjusted. So the customer consumption was 5,000 gallons, because the leak was more than, it was actually 74,000, but if they used 74,000, subtracted 72,000, it only left them with 2,000 gallons, but the minimum, they're gonna pay the minimum 5,000, so we adjusted the leak for that reason. The calculation based on that. So here's the calculations for each month there. So for the first one, they were billed $603.10. The leak value at the lowest rate was $189.06. And then again, the 5,000 gallon use is the minimum of $25 that's paid there. So paid by the customer, I added this line in here from last time, is paying $214.06. The accrual credit for that month will be $389.04. And then for the second billing period, the bill was $290.70, sorry. $79.46 was the actual leak, adjusted at the lower tier rate. $75.05 was their customer consumption. And then, so the customer is paying $154.51 for that month. Credit would be $136.19. Total paid by the customer for both months is $368. And the total credit to the customer is $525.23. So we recommend the water manager's calculation of $525.23 for your approval. So I turn it back over to you for any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Starting on the left side, questions, comments on this one?
So they had I did read these ahead of time. They did have they had a regular bill portion ended on March 23rd. And of course, then they got their bill the first of the month. But I think I'm confused on why did we continue to credit them? They didn't actually have, or maybe they did consider that excessive usage, 49,000 beginning on late, in other words, the period.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't, I'm gonna turn it over to water manager.
Go ahead, Mr. Parsons.
Yeah, so what happens in a lot of these cases is when they get the bill the first month, they notice that there's a higher rate. And when they get that higher rate, that's when they start investigating and looking for that water loss. And it goes into that second billing period. So it's not until, let's say the 23rd is when we collect the data. We don't send the bills out till the end of the month.
Right.
And then, so they still have a leak continuing. So once they get the bill for that next month, they've already continued to leak into the second billing period. So a lot of times that happens and they don't know, or they can't get a plumber soon enough. And so that's how it pushes into 2 billing periods most times. Does that answer your question?
It answers my question. Thank you.
Ma'am, anything else?
No, thank you.
Sir? Sir, ma'am? Okay, so the recommendation from the Water Commission on item 9C1 is for $523.23, credit to the account for 8323 Shining Elk.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from place 3. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Motion, second from place 2. Any further discussion or questions? Anyone? All in favor of the $525.23 water leak adjustment, 8323 Shining Elk, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, the second water leak adjustment is for 19099 FM 2252. This is actually First United Bank. This was for the billing period of February 20th of this year to March 23rd. They had a water leak in the main water line to the building. It was under the concrete slab underneath where the drive-through windows are. They were not aware of it until they got exorbitant water bills. The thing is, they don't receive the water bills here at the bank. The water bills go to their Oklahoma office, okay? And they were just paying the bills. It got up, and we noticed from the history that there was a step up starting actually in April of last year. So it's gone up, and the last bill was for $8,000. Okay? So they're only, so we're only going by the water we could actually calculate as far as the leak's concerned. And that's all they're asking for is credit. There was a memo, I don't know if it got it in the packet or not. It did? Okay. From that the manager sent to Water Commission the day of the Water Commission meeting. But anyway, you can see from there, this chart right here that's on the wall there, you can see how it increased, really starting, well, go back to the other one, Kat. Go back to the one you had on. Yeah, right there. You started going up from 109,000 gallons, 113, 149, kept on creeping up slowly. And it got to up to $8,000. Again, the plumber found the leak deep underground that wasn't accessible without drilling a large chunk of concrete in the water in the drive-through lanes. They decided to install a new water line instead of trying to cut through there and delay the whole process. They were real good about shutting off the water and only opening it a couple of times during the day to use facilities. But again, for the laptop readings, the water department determined a 431,000 gallon leak over 2 billing periods, 420 gallons for one billing period and 11 for the next one. And there are the calculations that we have again. So again, it's $8,000 was their water bill for February 24th to March 23rd. And the leak, 420,000 gallons at the lowest return rate is 1,150. The water consumption there is 36,000 gallons, which is $171. So paid by the customer based on these calculations is $1,322. Providing a credit to the customer of $66.96 for the March 23rd to April 1st when they fixed the leak. It was only a few days, about a week after that. So that bill was $130 because they stopped the leak in time. $11,000 was actually the leak amount, $30, using $19,000, which is $70, and then that results in a paid by the customer of $100.66, credit an additional $29.49. Anyway, so the bottom number is proposed credit of $6,726.42, as proposed by the manager and the Water Commission recommends to council to approve this amount. Mr. Mayor?
Thanks, sir. Starting on the right side, questions or comments for the Water Commissioner and Water Manager? Ma'am.
Sorry, me again. I'm assuming there was, this probably has to be redirected, or perhaps you can answer it. There's no, obviously no evidence of this leak above on the surface.
There was no evidence anywhere.
And could they determine where the fault was? Was it close to the reason I say that, I worry that if it's too close to the building, it could over time, in fact, impact the foundation. But
That I don't know. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Parsons. I know your men followed this repair, didn't they?
If you notice in the pictures, if Kat could go to the first one.
Right.
It was underneath the asphalt area there, and that's where they found it. So they cut 2 holes, dug down, and they replaced that line, and that's where they were, and it was pretty far down, as you can see. So that's the portion they replaced in order to fix that leak. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Oh, it was more of a comment.
Yeah.
Wondering if Sedalis has a lot of green grass or something. Thank you.
And I didn't ask this in the Water Commission, but I'm going to ask it now. Was this in the aquifer recharge zone? Can we get some credit for that?
To give it back.
So barring any other questions or comments, if council would like to take action on this, entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Got a motion from place 1 to approve the $6,726.42 credit to 099 FM 2252. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 4 with a second. Further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Sir, number 3.
Okay, number 3, this is a leak adjustment request for 21,729 Forest Water Circles for the billing period of April 23rd of 2020 to May 21st, 2020. The customer first noticed water in the front driveway on May 17th, 2 days after additional sprinkler heads were installed. They immediately called the irrigation company to see if something they did was a result of the leak. Everything they found was the leak was not caused by their work, and everything was working fine. They brought a leak detection company out and found the leak in the main water line in the flower bed. Unable to get the plumber to repair the leak over the Memorial Day holiday, the customer kept the water to the house shut off and only opened it about 30 minutes to an hour a day to minimize water usage, water leakage. Per the water department, determined a leak of 57,000 gallons from May 6th through May 18th, so a short period of time there. These people did not wait for the water bill. They had a water leak and they took action. Their water bill was for $900. The leak value for the 57,000 gallons is $156.18. Their water usage for the month was 35,000 gallons, normal, $162.60. Paid by the customer is $318.78. The calculated credit of $581.97 was a water manager proposal, which the Water Commission recommends to City Council to approve. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. On the left side, questions or comments on item number 3?
No, sir.
Sir. Ma'am? Sir?
I move to approve.
So to be
Second the
clear,
motion.
I'm sorry, to be clear, the motion is for 581.97? Okay. So 581.97, I have a motion from place 3, and I
Second the
believe I have a
motion.
second from place 5. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of a $581.97 leak adjustment credit to 21729 Forest Water Circle, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Back to you, sir.
Okay, the Water Commission did have one more other leak adjustment to discuss. This request had been placed on hold from the May meeting and asked the water manager to go back to the customer and request evidence that the plan to mitigate the cause of the leak was complete. That was satisfied, and permanent fix was actually remove the spigot, and the Water Commission recommended the city administrator to approve a credit of $366.32. Also discussed during the meeting is Mayor Thompson covered the wastewater project with the Water Commission, since it'll be part of the Water Commission's responsibility going forward. The city engineers are scheduled to provide an engineering detail discussion at the next Water Commission meeting. So I encourage you, to at least watch the live stream there or watch it afterwards to learn more about it, and encourage the citizens to do the same. It's a good time to get some education as we go on forward. This will be a standing topic now on the Water Commission agenda. Quick update on Water Commission projects. Water Master Plan. Commissioner Harshberger and Commissioner Haldeman met with the city engineers and water manager just to get an overview of the water master plan and status update. So that's moving along, just to get information. That's moving on. I have Commissioner Bullard and Commissioner Miller doing an ordinance review. They've been working with the water manager, reviewing Ordinance 61 is the first one they're looking at, which is the drought management plan. And they plan to present a draft version of the revisions at the next Water Commission meeting. On the water meter project, last month I mentioned the Water Commission had recommended to the city administrator for city staff and city engineers to put together a scope of work for an automatic metering infrastructure, AMI system. The subcommittee is ironing out the details of the document, and it should be ready for the Water Commission to review and then make recommendations for the August City Council meeting, at your next meeting. One thing I'd like to mention is as you hear all these leaks, we have all the leaks, we're actually, total leaks, I think, 1.7 million gallons since we started this in August. Okay? What bigger water conservation project can we have is to change our water meters out to an AMI system? Anyway, just a plug for that. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, July 28th, 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Turn it back to you if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Starting on the right side, questions, comments overall for Water Commission? Ma'am?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Valdez, I just want to make sure council knows that what they ruled on tonight with these three is the tip of the iceberg. There's a bunch of them that are in the report that either go just to the water manager and it doesn't go farther than him because of the way the ordinance is written, or it goes from the Water Commission to the city administrator, and the council doesn't end up ruling on that. And in fact, you mentioned one of them, the $300 and some odd one. But the point being that they sit and grind through a lot of these, and both the water manager and the water commission chair and then the water commissioners spend a lot of time on these, and then distilling it as best they can for y'all when they send you when you get these reviews and kind of the high level look at what these are all about. So they're putting a lot of work into that, and then on top of all that, what you heard with the rundown of all the projects with the ordinance and water meters and the water master plan and all that stuff. So this commission is putting a whole lot of work into our water system, and as you heard, starting to introduce them now into the next thing that the water company and water commission will be dealing with, which is the wastewater system. So thank you to you and your commissioners for doing just a great job and putting a lot of work into this. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Next up is item number 9D, wildlife management. And the chair is not here today, but the vice chair, the brand new vice chair, Mr. Ken Kniper is here. Sir, come on up, you have the floor.
We met in April, Mr. Mayor and City Council, and with regrets, we accepted the Chairwoman Cynthia Segovia's resignation, and the only other part of business was David Grzinski is now the chair, and I was voted in as the vice chair. And that was basically our entire meeting. That was for the two main items from that meeting. That's all we have to report.
Thanks, sir. Questions, comments for wildlife management, stand left side.
No, thank you.
Sir.
It looks like we're going to have to start examining our deer herd again. We're 34 deer carcasses ahead of where we were at this time last year. So that's kind of a disturbing trend.
We discussed that, and what if you notice, the beginning of the year, there was hardly any. People weren't driving. They've gotten out of the practice of looking for deer and slowing down when they see them. And it is disturbing that the fact that there are more deer being hit, there's more accidents. And now there's more cars on the road, and if it keeps up, we'll have more carcasses probably.
Or the deer are getting less weary because of the lack of traffic.
That could be it. They're getting braver.
Anything else over on this side?
Ken, we mentioned last month, the month before, about having a professional group come in and do a deer count this year. I was based on what I'm hearing from a lot of people, we don't have the number of deer that we did before. It certainly isn't because we over-trapped, because we've hardly trapped at all. But it appears that the lack of feeding has allowed these deer to disperse. And I don't know about the deer kill here recently. I wasn't aware of that, but I would like to know, I think council would like to know what's the status of the deer herd right now, and possibly, I think we might be close to doing a maintenance program and not full-blown trapping.
Well, before we can do any trapping, we have to have landowners step forward and say that we can trap on their land, and we had none this year. So there was none trapped. We are gonna have the new Comal County wildlife manager. The person in charge from Texas Parks and Wildlife come at the July meeting on July the 20th, and he's gonna address the count and possibly arrange for dates and help us with the count and go with us when we do our counts. And we'll
Okay,
be
good.
again encouraging residents to go with many members of the commission.
Okay, great. Because we got coming up on budget season here, and we will need to know how much, if any, to put in for the deer management.
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
Ma'am? Sir? Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Mayor
And,
and Council.
And congratulations, Mr. Vice.
You're welcome.
Next up is item 9E, the Parks Committee. Mr. Chamberlain, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the parks today. I'm really excited because the parks have grown. The committee has grown. We have 2 new members, volunteers that have joined the committee. Dave Heyer actually referred them over, Bill and Joanne Wyckoff. We're excited to have them join our team, and they have been residents in Garden Ridge since 2000. So we're looking forward to having them work with us and everything else. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to introduce them to you. You may already know them from them being 10-plus year citizens here in the city. This brings our general membership to 13. We are always looking to grow, just want you to know that. And it's important to note that even though we're 13 strong, some of our volunteers invest their time and energy because they want to work on the parks. They love the parks. And then another part of that group wants to go ahead and work on the events such as the Christmas tree lighting. And then we do have a small subset that likes to work on everything, which is great. So if you run across someone that you know that's interested in the Parks Committee, we'd like to have them, give them our name, refer them over either to myself, Dr. Jim, or Linda Potts. We're the 3 co-chairs for the Parks Committee. Or if you prefer, just give us their name and contact information. We'll give them a call from that side. Also, would like to thank Councilwoman Swint for referring over a referral on an Eagle Scout project, I believe. So work on that. So if you run across anyone who has something that needs to be done, or a Scoutmaster or anything that's for the parks, that would be a good idea, please kick it over to us so we can go ahead and start to evaluate it and put some meat on the bones and work with it, if you would, from that side. Since our last council meeting, most of our focus and energy has been on, surprisingly, the 4th of July that's coming up. But we've also been working on other things. I'd like to update you on ordinance number 24. We talked about that with regards to updating the use of the parks recreational areas and facilities controlled by the city. We have been working with Public Works on Pavilion 3. We need to get that staged before we can actually go ahead and put it up for a rental process. And while that's being done, we're looking for the month of July. We're working with Public Works. We will be asking them to make that a focus on their to-do list for the month. Then we, at the same time, would be working on updating ordinance number 24. Bringing it back to council. We're looking to do that, Mayor, in the month of September. Bring it back to council for their consideration. Additionally, next year's budget, we did submit next year's budget in to the city finance on time. Hopefully everything will be approved on that side, or if you want to go up, it's okay too. We'll allow that. We will take the extra money. The Parks Committee, as far as task list, we have been working with the Parks Committee and Public Works in tandem to go ahead and identify what tasks are out there. And we've got them into 6 different categories, like open and closed and paused and that. Just to let you know, we're standing since the first of the year, 106 tasks. That's 1 up from the previous month. Our open tasks for Public Works are sitting at 47. It was 81. Yes, they've been doing a heck of a job, as you can see with the paintbrushes out front and everything else. But we've gone ahead and recategorized, because some of those open tasks really belong to the Parks Committee itself, making a business decision for recommendations back to Public Works. 19 are closed. That's up from 5 last month. We have 13 that are scheduled. That's something that's coming up in the future that we know we're going to do, but it's not time to do it now. And we have 20 that have been now assigned to the committee
that is a new task that we put together for that. We continue to manage through the current events that have been going on with COVID and everything else, but the Public Works has really done a stellar job supporting the Parks Committee. I appreciate what they've been doing in that area. With regards to the 4th of July update, I just want you to know that everything that's been done has not been done in a vacuum. There's been a lot of energy put in by people in City Hall, Public Works, and other people throughout the community that have provided input. The police department's been very helpful and everything else with regards to what do we do, because the takeaway from the June's council meeting was, yes, we want to have a 4th of July, but we want to be safe. We want to take care of our families, take care of our citizens, and take care of our employees of the city. With that in mind, we have worked to go ahead and take additional steps to heighten the security and the safety that we are providing for the people. And if people wish to attend the celebration of the birth of our nation's independence, we want to make it as enjoyable as possible. And we also are taking steps to make sure it's as safe as possible. With that in mind, what are we doing to make it safer? The first thing is with regards to communication. We are encouraging people to follow the CDC guidelines. Health guidelines are set up. They've been posted on a reference to the city marquee. We've mentioned on the city website and Facebook page. Safety and informational signs will be posted in plain view for all attendees for the event. And the ceremony's MC will be encouraging people to practice in good social distancing and the wearing of face covering to help protect themselves and the people around them. This will be mentioned before and during and after the ceremony as we conclude it from that side. Social distancing, a special social boundary will be surround all participants involved in the flag raising ceremony. And I don't know if you've, yes, thank you, Kate, for putting that up. You probably have that on a handout, I believe, hard copy. The green rectangular shape, that is what I'm going to recall, that was mentioned as the social boundary. So if you're inside that boundary, we are limiting it. It was originally 58 people, it's now down to 13 people. We want to take extra precautions to make sure that we take care of anyone that's inside that list. There's a list of people that are identified as the 13. You can see with the brown squares in the green circle, those are actually practicing separation from that area. There'll be assigned seating for those people, so it's not like they're going to be walking around. Yes, they will go up to the flagpole. The Scoutmaster will take the Cub Scouts and go up and everything else from that side, but we have strategically placed everything so we know that we are going to be more than 6 feet, according to CDC. Will be anywhere from 8 to 10 feet on separation from that area. The other part is there is going to be a pre-screening. Kat, if you can just scroll down towards the bottom a little bit. Thank you. As you see those 3 black X's, that's an area where anyone that's going into the special boundary area, they will go through a pre-screening process, which means that they will have their temperature taken and we'll ask them questions. The standard questions that are asked today when you go into restaurants or you go to work, we're in compliance specifically with CDC guidelines on that, from that area. With only 13 people going in, it's not like you're going to have a crowd that's going to come into play. So we will go through them and handle it from that point. And if you're not part of the actual ceremony, then at that point you will be stepping outside of the social boundary area from that point. Face coverings are encouraged. If someone does show up and doesn't have a face covering, we will offer them one. That's the best we can do. But we are encouraging it throughout the event. The Scoutmaster question that was been asked to me, well, yes, but the Scouts are younger. Are they going to have a problem with it? Apparently, the Scoutmaster said, yes, they've already been wearing the face mask. They're used to it because of what we've been practicing on our Scout meetings and that, and the parents are on board with it as well, too. So we've addressed that concern. Hand sanitizing stations, there will be 4 portable hand sanitizing stations throughout the area. In outdoor gathering, it will be limited to no more than 100 people per state guidelines. With further minimizing exposure, once again, we've taken it from 58 down to the 13. And those watching the ceremony are asked to watch from the convenience of their car. either sitting inside or standing next to. So down at the very bottom, you'll see where there's, I apologize for my artistic ability. It is very limited, but that is at least give you an idea where the cars will be put in from there. We'll coordinate that with PD as far where's the best place for them to park and everything else, and we'll manage that as they come in from that point. But we are definitely emphasizing with the MC and with signs, stay in your cars, next to your cars. We are spacing them apart. The only place where I've got some uptight is because I know when a person comes in, they'll exit, we'll have another car come in, just to maximize the view and the exposure for people to watch the ceremony. So the cars aren't blocking the view on that side. And once again, anyone that is in the inner circle, we're going to have their seats labeled so they know exactly where they're going to sit, and we have identified them and everything else. That's the actual flag raising ceremony. The participants will be wearing masks since they will not be have 6 feet of separation during the actual flag raising event. They actually are practicing this coming Friday. The Scouts are. I'm pretty excited about that. And with regards to the podium and the flagpole, space around the podium and flagpole have been planned to ensure there is at least 8 feet of separation. And only one person at the podium at a time, much like what you've been doing here. Speakers exit the podium, safe zone, and then the next speaker enters the safe zone. The speakers do not need to wear a mask while talking or singing. And hand sanitizer will be available at the podium. And any, do you want me to go into the tour, or do you want me to stop here? Okay, I'll go into the tour.
Do the whole thing.
Okay. With regards to the city tour, that was the second part of what we were going to do for the parade, for the 4th of July celebration. We've taken steps to enhance the level of safety there as well, not only for the participants within the parade, but also for the citizens who'll be watching from home, waving or cheering as the parade travels through their neighborhood. What's different this year, we're taking the parade to the city. We're going to cover a large percentage of the city on the route that you see up above from that area. And it's basically called the City Spirit Tour Parade. For the first time, we're also going to have, as you know, a Grand Marshal. And that Grand Marshal is retired Brigadier General Charles Chuck Elia. He has not only served our nation honorably for 34 years, but has also been an active resident of Garden Ridge for 44 years. And he has led by example, showing his commitment to helping and working with fellow citizens along within our city to grow in what it is today. Since part of the parade will be on state highways, FM 3009 and FM 2252, only registered vehicles will be able to participate in the entire parade. Sorry, we're not going to allow tricycles, skateboards, hoverboards, lawnmowers, and etc. We will be allowed to participate in the parade because we're going on public roads, and no one's to sit in the back of a pickup truck or have trailers pulled from that side. We're communicating that as well. It's important that we're on a state highway. We have to go ahead and comply with state regulations from that area. As much as I'd love to go ahead and pull the grandkids behind me, it's just not possible. Communication, the parade route has been posted on the city's website. Special email communication has been held with the HOA presidents, even though I know not all the residents in our city are HOA members, but we have communicated with all the presidents of the HOA, and we have gotten approval on all but one, and the one that did not approve, we're not going through that subdivision. I take that back, I apologize. 2 people, and both of them for the same reason, and that is because you cannot take a fire engine down to a cul-de-sac and turn around. It just doesn't happen. And they both understand that, and they both respect it from that area. So no problem at that point. Let's see this one. Since the parade is covering a lot of road within our city, our citizens will be able to stay in the comfort and safety of their home or front yard. This will reduce the number of families having to leave their home to see a 4th of July parade elsewhere. We're asking the participants in the parade, so anyone that's in the parade as they are coming into City Hall for the flag raising or coming into City Hall to join the parade, they will have a handout given to them on the do's and don'ts of the parade. We do not want people throwing candy or trinkets out We don't want them hanging out the side of the car. So we'll have a list, a quick checklist that we're going to give to them from that area for safety. Social distancing should not be an issue. No one is riding in the back of a pickup truck or a trailer, and people who get into their registered vehicles will stay in the same vehicle throughout the entire parade. The entire parade should take about 1 hour. It will start at City Hall and it will end at City Hall. There are no planned events after the parade's return to City Hall. Individuals will be able to immediately leave without any interaction with any other parties. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to you for questions.
Mr. Chamberlain, thank you. Very comprehensive, very, very well explained, and really appreciate. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I want to go ahead and see if any council has any questions over any of the details, any of the events that you've gone through so far. Starting over on the right side.
Hi, Rod.
Hi.
Thank you for putting all of your hard work into this. I know you've
It's a team effort. Thank you.
you've been at it for a while. Walk me back here. Didn't we, the Parks Committee, start out with the idea of just having the parade?
We, if you go back to the original, it would be pre-COVID. We thought about having the 4th of July celebration at Paul Davis Park.
Right.
You know, with like it's been traditionally done and has it's grown year over year, which is a hard thing to beat this year. After that, then there was a review that was done after council went in and said, yes, we do want a parade and we want it safe. That was the June meeting. We met on the 11th with the principal participants in the normal 4th of July things like the GRCPAA, Lions Club, the police, city, and water department, and public works. During that conversation, questions were raised, what can we do? And we said, well, we really want to celebrate the birth of our nation. And we think a flag raising's got to be done. We also think that, yes, we can have a parade. And it can be a smaller parade, but it can be a parade, very limited. That's what we came back with. Discussions came into play and was like, yep, let's do both. No food, no drinking, so, you know, comply with CDC guidelines and everything else. But the parade and the flag raising has been in there since day one. Of course, initially with Paul Davis Park, it was part of many things. But from the 11th on, it was a parade and a flag raising. Now, the number of cars, that we don't really know how many people are going to join from that area. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, and I'm assuming that we'll talk about this more on item 10, so I don't know if I should save my questions for then or here or...
I'd ask if you have questions for the Parks Committee on the plan, please, by all means.
Okay. Do we know how many staff members are involved in this plan?
Yes, collectively from the city, there will be 3. Those 3 have been identified. They will not be, you'll probably have 1 in the inner circle. That would be the person doing the Facebook Live. Depends upon how far they have to be back. I have not had a chance to confirm that 100%.
Well, let's not put you on the spot, because this is
Okay.
more of an answer coming from city staff.
Okay.
And so, Ms. Kane, do you want to field that one?
Sure. In the inner circle, there are going to be 2 staff members. One will be operating the Facebook Live streaming of the event, and the other one will be operating the FM station. There will be 3 public works and water employees that will be involved with the setup and the tear down of the event.
3 each?
I'm sorry?
3 from each?
Total of 3. 2 from Public Works and 1 from Water.
And they're not going to be in the ceremony.
They're
gonna
not
set up
going to
long
be in the
before,
inner.
and they're not going to come back out until after the ceremony's over.
Correct.
Correct. The police department will, other than, let's see, how many officers all total, Ron?
We'll have 8, 7 or 8. We'll
Seven.
only have 2 that are sleeping.
And the police clerk will not be here.
So 8 officers as well?
But none of those are in the inner circle, correct, Chief Ryan? I mean, I don't see any reason for them to be there, but.
Yeah,
you know, I
what's the
hate-
role of the police officers? What's their job gonna be?
We've got to handle all the crowd control and ingress, egress of all the traffic in
Yeah.
the parade.
Okay.
Along with intersection duties and so forth.
Okay. I have some concerns about, you know, both the exposure to staff and the police, but I guess we can get that in point 10 since it's not exactly the planning part of things.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can add one more thing, and I apologize. We have
Go right ahead.
we have a co-lead for each of our events, in this case, the 4th of July event, and that's Dave Heyer, and Dave is over here on the side. I did not mention that in the beginning. I apologize.
Oh, I guess I do have another question. I'll just bring that up.
Yes.
I've talked to a lot of people on the Parks Committee, and they've expressed some concerns. Do you have a lot of support behind you as far as committee members go?
We have 5 members that have said that they will be there for the 4th of July. We, too, are also trying to minimize the number of people that participate.
Okay.
But 5 out of the quote-unquote
Out of the
13.
Okay.
And out of the 13, one of them does include Eric, who is Public Works, so really it's 5 out of 12 from that area.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. Excuse me, Councilwoman Bauer? Oh, sorry.
What vehicle is the general going to be riding in? What kind of vehicle?
I'm going to say I don't know because I don't know what vehicle he owns. He wants to drive in his own vehicle because he feels it's safer. And we had that conversation this afternoon. Because we did have a vehicle lined up for him. And he called and said, you know, I'd just like to have my own vehicle and my wife will drive and everything
Okay,
else.
so he is going to be in air conditioning and everything?
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Totally comfortable on that side, yes.
Okay, the checkers are going to be checking people in, taking their temperature. What kind of protection do these people have? Are they going to be staff or police department? Or what?
These are 2 nurses who currently are retired nurses that have actually done this type of work in the past, so they're quite comfortable with it, know the process and the procedure and
So
everything
they
else.
have adequate protection to keep them from
Yes.
getting anything? Okay.
They will be following CDC guidelines with regards to what they have to have, much like I believe what they use for court if they do anything in temperature testing or stuff like that. But the answer is yes to your question, Brian.
Okay, and the speakers that morning, how many of those are there going to be?
There will be, I'm going to include the chaplain in that count, just so that there's no misunderstanding. There'll be an MC, basically to make sure that we are hitting all the safety things that we want to talk about in the introduction of people. There will be the chaplain, there will be the mayor, and there will be Chuck himself. He will also want to go ahead and speak. He's asked if he could say a few words.
And how long is the flag raising going to take?
The flag raising itself, if I go to the colors, that's 30.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
Oh,
the whole function.
process?
Yeah.
Should take maybe 20, 30 minutes tops. I'd say 20 minutes probably more likely. Start at 9 o'clock, should be done by 9:20, 9:30.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
I think we can do this safely. I've got a little concern about the very large percentage of our police department involved. I don't know that there's a better solution. If we've got 2 officers off and just about everybody else here, that's a large concentration of our police department, one area at one time. If there does happen to be anybody that gets sick or anything else, that's the concern I've got. I think we need to really pay attention to the spacing. My biggest concern is too many people showing up, and then what do we do? I know we've got 8 officers here to do traffic control, but if we get 500 people from the city showing up to drive in the parade, we could run into a bit of a problem. I'm not sure how to deal with it. I'm kind of raising my concern right now.
Ma'am?
You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And I've never received so many Excel spreadsheets in my life. I'm waiting for the next recycle. But I also, if I may, I forgot to include something on parks that's not related to the 4th. May I include that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I meant to say, and I apologize earlier, that those of you who are aware that we were going to have an egg extravaganza this past April, and of course we canceled it for safety reasons, and we had already ordered the candy and it was sitting there waving at us. So I proposed that we find a source to donate it, and discussion with the Parks Committee, I was able actually just yesterday to take it to Texas Children's Hospital, the Sonterra location, and donate it to them. They are a nonprofit. So they have our candy, so now we can't eat it.
Okay. That's good.
Yes.
And I'm sure they liked getting it too, Kay.
Yeah, thank you for letting me interject that.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, fantastic job. All the details, the negotiations to get the numbers down, the insistence on the emphasis on safety, the insistence on, in your diagrams with, instead of 6-foot separation, 8-foot or more separation, creating that zone that people won't go in. All of that is just phenomenal work, an iterative process that I've watched and very, very impressed. So thank you to you and to all of your folks on the committee for working this and doing such a fantastic job. Thanks a lot, Ron.
Thanks.
Next up is item 9F, Volunteer Garden Ridge. And Dr. Miller is shaking it off, but we do have some hours. Ms. Kane?
Volunteer Garden Ridge had a total of 117 volunteer hours in June.
Thank you, ma'am. That's pretty remarkable considering what we're up against right now. So the program's alive. We got people still volunteering and back up here helping stuff, as well as obviously a big piece in the library and some of the other activities. But it's still alive. Just a little bit of a lull, obviously, because of what's going on with COVID. So thank you, and Dr. Miller, thank you. Item number 10 is approvals and authorizations, and item number 10A is about COVID-19. And as I've done the last few months, I'm going to do this for the benefit of council and for anybody that's watching or will watch this. A quick review of where we are and how it pertains to our city. So in Texas, the most recent thing is the executive order, governor's executive order GA-28. He did that on the 28th of June. That closed bars in state, reduced maximum restaurant occupancy from 75% to 50%, limit outdoor activities gatherings to 100 people, other than those expressly allowed in the order, unless the mayor of a municipality authorizes more. Interestingly enough, there are many exceptions. I have it here, but the exceptions to that 100 are quite lengthy. None that are necessarily pertinent to what we're talking about tonight, or something that we see happening in our city in the next few weeks. But if you haven't read it, there's a lot to it, with sporting events and faith events and lots of other things that are all exempted in there. So there's a lot of exemption in there. He also, and I will say, if you want to see it, we have it posted on our website, as we do all of the executive orders. And I tell you that because there are times where it's difficult to get to the governor's website. If you've done that, you get to it and then you click on one of these and it just sits there and spins and spins and spins. And apparently it's because a lot of people are interested in reading these things, particularly right after they come out. So you can get to it from our website as well. We have it posted. Last Friday, he also made a statement that is very telling about what's going on. And he said that he regretted opening up the bars as fast and in the way he did. And that I'm going to refer to that in a minute as we talk about what's going on in our county as well. But the bottom line is the reason why he regrets it is because after 3 months of telling 20-somethings that they couldn't go anywhere, we told them, go ahead and go to the bar. And the spike, as it's being called, is directly attributed to that, and that's the reason why he closed the bars. The overlay, as you look at the numbers, the baseline numbers of people that are not in the low end of age has not changed considerably, but the low end ages, and specifically the 19 to 29 age range has increased, and I wouldn't use this word lightly, exponentially in our state as well as in a few other states. And it's not just the bars. Remember, it was also closing down outdoor recreation places. You know, you can't rent tubes right now. You know, you can't do the river. You can't go to the boat landings, and you can't do the beaches and all that as well. So that was where all of these folks that were pent up, that knew darn well that as they looked at the numbers, they're not stupid. They looked at the numbers and saw that their age group, the chance of getting COVID was 0.004, and so they said, well, you're telling me I can get this, I get a 0.004 chance of getting it, and even hundreds more less chance of actually getting really sick from it. They just went out, and the governor realizes that became a serious problem, and so that's why he did what he did on the June 28th with GA 28. So now turning to the county, today, late this morning, the judge actually called me, and we talked about it before he did it. I appreciate that he called, but he issued SK 03, mandating businesses in the county, throughout the county, establish and publish a safety plan to include masks when unable to maintain 6-foot separation. Also reiterated the standard stuff with washing your hands and maintaining social distance, etc. The order is, again, something you can get to from our website, and it's important to read it. It's not as long as the state one, and a lot of it is the stuff in the whereases in the beginning, but talks about county employees, but not county facilities for people that aren't employees, because again, per the governor, the county or any county or municipality cannot require people to wear masks, but can require businesses to have safety plans, and that's exactly what this is. And in fact, the last 2 pages of the 6 pages is an example, and we talked a lot about this during our mayor and judge calls, that if you have a small business, we didn't want to put a burden on you to try to figure out, what am I going to do for a safety plan? So we in this executive order, it has example policy, and even has an example of a sign you can put in front of your business if you don't even want to create a sign. And the sign very simply says, if you can't maintain 6 feet, you need to wear a face covering. And so, interestingly enough, it makes the businesses responsible for it, not the individuals. It makes the businesses responsible to comply, and the intent is that a business would be held accountable per a fine, no jail time, but a fine to do this. And another thing that's in here that I thought was really interesting is that it gives municipalities the ability to supersede it. And right now I have no intention of superseding it. It doesn't have that much of an effect on our city at this point anyway, but it does actually give cities the wiggle room to do it. If you have been paying attention, the city of New Braunfels did this last week, effective the end of last week. They had already done it. So it doesn't really affect them a lot because they'd already done it. So in the county, we've talked a lot about this amongst the county and all of my counterparts and what's going on with the numbers. The judge and I had a long discussion about this today, in fact, because if you're reading the reports that are coming out, there's not a lot of useful information in the reports. When the report says that the people that are getting COVID are between the ages of less than 1 and over 80, and my words to the group was, why don't we just say they're human beings? So I don't see that that's very useful. I talked to the judge about it. He agreed wholeheartedly, and he said that they're working on that. Another thing that is in the reports, if you've noticed, they now aggregate Garden Ridge with southern Comal County and with Schertz. And they're doing it because they're saying they don't have time to break them out. The problem with that is that I can't tell you what's going on in Garden Ridge anymore because I can't get an answer. And if you look at the way the reports go, it's always an additive. There's never anybody taken off the list. They're just added more to the list. So when the biggest number on that report that you see is always the total number of people that have ever had it, not the total number of people that have it now. And that's an issue because it's not telling necessarily the full story. And you have to kind of peel this back yourself. The third thing that's about the numbers, and something that I was surprised that he not only agreed with, but said that he has a real problem with it when we talked today, is that if you look at the positivity rate, a month or so ago, before we started adding probables into the equations, the positivity rate was very simply bouncing the number of positive cases off the number of people that have been tested. Makes sense. Well, when the health professionals added the probable into the mix, what they did was they said that if you have one of three things, either you're positive on a test that's not very accurate, it's very a quick test that then tells you need to go get a real test, you believe you're exhibiting some symptoms, or you believe you've been in contact with somebody that has it, two of those three things, you become probable. And this afternoon, the probable was just under 200 for the county of Comal. The problem with the calculations for positivity rate is they take 100% of the probables and they put them into the positivity rate. Well, by their own definition, the probables will not all be positive. In fact, if you use the numbers that they were using, it'd be 10% of it. So even if it was 200, there'd be 20 people that you'd add to the positives, not 200, but they're adding the whole thing. And when I talked to him about that, he said that's a real problem, and it's something that they're trying to figure out how they can either put another note on the reports or get the state to understand that this isn't working. And the issue with this is, and what I told him, and because we've had a few other problems with knowing who has it and where they are, and I won't get into it all right now, but I told them that we're running the risk of losing credibility when somebody looks at some of this and stuff and says, wait a minute, that's not how many people are really positive. By your own definition, it's not how many people are positive. And if you're telling me that the age range between less than 1 and over 80, of what use is that at all? Tell me what's really going on. So today, yesterday, when we had this discussion, New Braunfels, which some of you have lived here long enough to know that they're the only city in Comal County, they received some pretty good fidelity on the numbers from Comal County. And they had a briefing yesterday, and the new mayor of New Braunfels sent it to me. And the unfortunate thing is I don't have the numbers for Comal County, nor do I have the numbers for Garden Ridge or the Garden Ridge area as we're defining it. I have the numbers just for New Braunfels. But this is well representative of what's going on in the county. And so I'll give you, and this is age distribution from June 2nd numbers and an age distribution from June 23rd numbers. This is directly from the New Braunfels briefing, and it's directly from the source being Comal County Public Health. And on June 2nd, there were 5 people in the age range of 19 to 29. And June 23, there were 41. When you look at the curve and you look at the spike, what you see is it is absolutely attributed to the lower age range. Now, in the last few days, there have been some elder care, whether it be memory care places or whether they be nursing homes or any of that kind of stuff that's had an issue, which is exactly the kind of issue that's been happening down in San Antonio and some other places where somehow somebody got in there and they've infected some of the people that are unfortunately in the really high risk group. But and I won't go through all the numbers, but this is the chart. And I will get you a copy of this chart. Unfortunately, again, it's New Braunfels. I wrote to the judge this morning and I said, can I get this for Comal County? And he hasn't answered me. I know he's a busy guy right now, but he hasn't answered me. But for New Braunfels, the only other group that increased was the 60 to 69, and it increased by 4 people. All the other groups decreased significantly. For example, the 40 to 49 went from 27 people to 16 people. The above 70 went from 17 to 8. So, you know, I talked to them about this, and I talked to the group about this on Friday, and I said, we need to have better fidelity of the information so we know what's really going on. Now, please don't misunderstand my comments. I'm not saying this isn't a problem, that COVID isn't a problem. It certainly is a problem. It's a big problem. We need to take care of it, and we're taking all the measures we can in this city with our staff, with separating them geographically and separating them with time and wearing masks, and we all still maintain the 6-foot separation as a minimum. And I think you know, the staff has done a fantastic job of doing that, and these leaders that you have here are doing a good job of staying on their folks. If they start to believe they don't need to do it, or they start to get a little lax on it because they're in the middle of the task at hand, they're doing a great job with this. But the fact is when you uncover things like this, you ask, why aren't you telling us this? Why are you making it seem like it's an even distribution when clearly it's those young folks that went recreating and went to the bars? And it's completely understandable. I don't know about y'all, but if I was 25 years old and I sat in my house for 3 months and you told me I could go to the bar, you're damn right I would go to the bar. And if you told me I had a 0.004 chance of getting COVID, I would go to the bar. And so and clearly the governor, who has all of this information, understands that, knew that, said he regretted opening the bars, and immediately took action to close the bars and to close those places where all these people, particularly in the 19 to 29 age range, went. So I wanted to point that out because that is a hot topic with the mayor's group and the judge right now. And the judge told me more than once today, we're working on this, we're trying to fix this. One of the things that he told me that they're going to try to fix pretty soon is to give us better fidelity for Garden Ridge. You know, they started putting all this together for Southern Comal County Garden Ridge Insurance because it was easier for them, but I told them that now it's not doing us any good. They're saying it's 12 to 14 in this area, but what's in Garden Ridge? So that's what's going on with the county. They are still doing drive-up testing, and we're still doing the phone calls bi-weekly with the judge, and we're staying pretty close contact with the other mayors and what's going on with all that. So now in our city, we still have the emergency declaration and the one amendment. You heard what's going on with the library. You heard what's going on with City Hall. You heard what's going on with our parks. We're still accommodating people that normally would have meetings in Bluebonnet Room by having them go into the Wildflower Room, since we're not renting out the Wildflower Room, so that way they can spread out and they can socially distance a good 8 to 10 feet and still have their board meeting or their HOA meeting or whatever they're going to do, and not ask them to be all stuck in the Bluebonnet Room where they normally would be. Telling them, keep in mind that when all this is over with, they're going back to the Bluebonnet Room. The bookings, we had some bookings that were coming up in the Community Event Center for August, and some of them are already canceling and backing out, and the Park Pavilion is the same. And I want to just turn this to, because I asked our city administrator to get the actual facts as of this afternoon. Can you go ahead and tell them where we are with that?
On park rentals for the month of July and August, we have none.
And the Community Event Center?
The Community Center through, from July 1st through the 23rd, the majority of those meetings are HOA meetings. The Police Academy Alumni Association has a couple of meetings. There's a Public Works is going to have a safety meeting. Parks Committee has a meeting. Right now, we have early voting going on. And there is a 200-person event scheduled for July 17th. The community center manager has also informed me that large rentals that were booked for August, they're starting to cancel. As soon as things started changing and spiking, she started getting calls for cancellations.
And for the record, that 200-person thing, we spent some time on this today, you dissect what the governor's order is, and when it comes to events in event centers and that kind of thing, it works out to be 50% as long as you can socially distance. And so we're going to be going back to those folks and explaining to them they're going to have to do that or they're going to have to cancel. Because the judge's order actually expires, I didn't mention that, the expiration of the judge's order is the
15th of July.
15th of July. So coincidentally, that booking is a couple days after that expiration. So technically, the judge's order doesn't qualify for that anymore. But we don't have any intention of having 200 people in close contact in our community event center 2 days after the judge's order expires. So we'll work that for sure. Obviously, in the city, we're still strongly encouraging CDC safe practice guidelines with all of the things that you all know already. And we're putting it on the sign. In fact, even this today was, you can watch it safely from home, but have had on there, follow guidelines, wear masks. When we talk about the 4th of July event, it's going to go back up on the sign, and it's going to say to follow CDC guidelines on the sign. Another thing about, in the midst of all this that is related to COVID and related to what we're doing with the city, the city and the Lions together did a blood drive and maxed it out. You may have heard 92 people signed up, 80 people ended up donating blood. Some people, for whatever reason, couldn't donate that day. And I talked to the director of the Southwest Blood and Tissue Center, and they told me that it was one of the best that they've seen. It filled up very quickly. It ran very, very smoothly. And the folks that were working there that day were really appreciative because they didn't have to do it in their trailer. And they had a lot of room. If you went up there, we had it really spread out. Another thing that's good and bad, depending on your perspective, is if you gave blood that day, you probably by now have a letter to tell you whether or not you have the COVID antibodies. And or AIDS, nice. But I'm sad to report that I don't have the antibodies. I was hoping I did, but I don't have the antibodies. And I don't have a number on how many people they might have found that had the antibodies. It's sensitive information for them. So if we get it and we can get it kind of sanitized, I'll definitely be passing it on to you. But let's see, and now the 4th of July. So that's all of the stuff, Texas, the county, and the city, with the exception of the 4th of July. So now I want to talk about the 4th of July and then open it up to item number 2, which is to take action on anything that you want to take action on when it comes to our activities with COVID as well as activities with the 4th of July. So 4th of July, as you see, a very small group, screened the way we did it for the court. Social distancing, masks, asking people to stay in their cars, pretty much telling them to stay in their cars, not really asking. We're going to tell them to stay in their cars. We're not passing anything out. We're asking people to watch from their yard or roadside, reminding them to be socially distanced and all that stuff. And it's going to be pumped out, again, signs and multiple social media. So really pushing hard to make sure people understand and are reminded about this. I'll tell you that personally, I think this is really important. Based on everything that's going on in our country, I think it's really important for us to stand up and celebrate our nation and celebrate our nation's independence, but we have to do it in a conservative and safe manner. And the Parks Committee and the people that have been involved with it have done an amazing job to ensure that it's frankly safer than most things. I know there's concern about how many staff members are involved, but what they're going to be doing is going to be safer than probably what they're doing most of the time when they're out working day to day. There's going to be less people in that event than there are in this room right now, and it's outside. So that's something that I ask you to consider, and I really appreciate what everybody has done to prepare for this. The police department with the planning and the advice, the parks folks, obviously, the water and public works folks. You notice, go out there if you didn't notice when you came in. We're really cleaning the area up out here and painting the curbs and doing all that stuff to make it look really nice for this event. So all of that stuff, just want to publicly thank them for all that. Now, the last thing I want to mention about the 4th of July is an interesting one that popped up. If you noticed on social media, there's a second parade, as some people are calling it. And it's to welcome an individual that's returning from the deployment or returning from somewhere overseas, a service person. And it's that person doesn't live on the parade route, and what these people are doing on their own is they're gonna assemble in the park afterwards, and they're gonna go by this guy's house on Blazing Star. The mix-up is the person that is either planning this or advocating for this put on social media that this was approved and supported by the city, and it's not. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's not approved by the city, and it's not supported by the city. In fact, they did ask for some city support, and we said we couldn't support it because we're not supporting anybody else's things like that. But it was kind of a soft request anyway. But nevertheless, I attempted to call that individual to explain to them that they really needed to take off their post statement that says that we're doing this, because we're not, and we can't have people think we're encouraging this or supporting this or endorsing this or approving this, because we're not doing any of that. But I couldn't get a hold of that person. So then there's another person that's helping this individual, happens to be their neighbor, and I talked to him, and he assured me that he would make sure it happened. He was very, very helpful, very understanding about it, and he says, oh yeah, no, that needs to come off, and he's actually the one that's on social media saying, hey, everybody remember, you can't get out of your cars, and I'll be there to marshal cars and make sure all this happens. And so he's obviously being very responsible about this. But that's an event like you know of, that have been some other events in this city that the city doesn't really have anything to do with, and we can't get in the way of that. We can't prevent that. They're not breaking any laws. And in fact, as long as they stay in their cars and they do the things that they're saying they're going to do, they're not even violating CDC guidelines, which, by the way, are not laws. So I just wanted to tell you that because you may have seen that and said, whoa, what are we doing supporting and endorsing this? We're not. And I don't know. I haven't had a chance to check in the last, about 6 hours to see if has it been changed? And the city secretary says it's been changed. So good, it's been changed, but you may have read it before it got changed, and I wanted to clear that misunderstanding up. And for the record, it's a great thing to do, but it's just not something the city can support or endorse. So that is my explanation and review of what's going on. I hope that helps, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of people that are confused on what the governor's orders are saying and what the judge's orders are saying and what orders are still in force. And for the foreseeable future, the governor will continue to re-up his order, emergency order, and as he does that continues to re-up our emergency order as well. Remember, it's as long as his order is in place, our order is in place. So that said, moving on to item 10A2, and see if there's any discussion or any action the council deems necessary in any of the things that we're doing in the city. We'll start over on the right side.
Does this include the parade?
It certainly does.
you know, as much as I love the 4th of July and have enjoyed the, you know, volunteering and celebrating at Paul Davis Park, I'm just not completely comfortable with this plan. Frankly, I'm not comfortable with any plan. I went back, you know, the mayor's perfectly correct in saying that Comal County has started lumping in Garden Ridge numbers with calling it Southern Comal County. But at all of their press releases, they put out, you know, at the top they do a numbers count and then they attribute it to, you know, which city is in the county, and then they roll it in down at the bottom. So I went back and did a count, and by my count, we have 10 cases. We've had 10 cases in Garden Ridge. We had 3 in April, 0 in May, and then we're getting to then June. And what's distressing to me is that in the last 8 days, we've added half of our cases. So I'm just through the numbers, I'm seeing things ramp up a little bit more than makes me happy. We've done such a good job, you know, with the city staff distancing and with our citizens being very cautious and conservative about their actions. So yeah, in 8 days we've added 5. That doesn't include what I heard today about another positive case in a local business. So the numbers aren't going in the right direction. And to me, there's also too many unknowns. You know, I think this is a brilliant plan. It's addressed, you know, everything that we could possibly think of, but there's other things. And I have participated in some of the parades, the birthday parades, and it's always everybody meet at Paul Davis Park, you know, at 3 o'clock. The parade starts at 3:10. Stay in your cars. People don't stay in their cars. You know, they just don't. I haven't seen it happen. I'd say probably 50% of the people see somebody they haven't seen in a couple months and they leave their car to say hi. And so it's just, there's no fail-safe. And for me, even kind of a 1% risk of any of our citizens and our staff and police department being exposed is too much. So that's kind of where I'm at with things.
Okay. Sir.
And I agree with your assessment that we shouldn't let this set us aside at 4th of July as something we have celebrated for quite some time, as long as we've been alive, obviously. But I do have some concerns, and I'm going to direct my first question to our city attorney. What position would the city be in if we had an outbreak of COVID because of the 4th of July parade and gathering?
So when you ask what position the city would be in?
Could we get sued?
You can get sued. Remember, you can be sued for anything at any time for any reason.
I understand that.
But I think what you're asking is what is the city's liability for holding an event? And so liability attaches if the city were to do something that was just so outrageous to be beyond the pale, rather than establishing a plan that complies with CDC rules, that complies with the governor's orders, that complies with the county orders. You know, if the city said, we're gonna do the exact opposite and we're gonna have, 1,000 people here in Garden Ridge, perhaps, maybe then, maybe. But still, the governmental immunities for the city, are in place. And so trying to control for a virus that is not something that the city can control for.
Okay.
And so
let me put it a different way. If a group of citizens come up to City Hall here and said, if we hadn't attended this 4th of July party, we wouldn't have caught COVID, let's say 6 people, and we're going to sue you, what would their...
Right.
How able would they be to do that?
So there again, like I said, your underlying question is, would the city be likely to be found liable? And the answer is no. The city's governmental immunities would protect them from this type of claim. the city didn't force them to come and participate. It is very difficult for them to be able to, say definitively, this is the only place that I've ever been, and, this is why I'm ill. To be able to prove that they had no other underlying issues or health concerns that led them to be more susceptible to this particular virus. But at the end of the day, it is a personal decision that they make to attend or not to attend. This is not compulsory. There's nothing in here that says that, that they do that. So again, like I said, what the real question is what are the chances that the city would be found liable if they had an event that complied with emergency orders and CDC guidelines? Slim to none.
Okay, thank you. All these questions with her seem to be long, and of course it covers all our bases. So, no, we appreciate it. Now, Chief, next one is yours. My biggest concern right now is the number of the police force is going to be there. What is your exposure? What do you have to do prior to and after you come in contact with anybody? I mean, are you going to be well protected when you're there, and if you touch somebody or have to move them away or something, what else comes into play?
Yeah, well, we do have PPE, and we do have protocols in place for going hands-on and dealing with people. Honestly, I mean, I have a few concerns based on the fact that it's using so much of my manpower at one time, and I've been very careful about making sure that guys stay healthy, and we've had couple of incidents where we've quarantined people to be on the safe side. So we will complete the task given to us, and we can do it. I think the officers have had enough practice now to be done safely. We can't account for any given thing. There's always going to be something that we're not going to know about in the future. I will say I do need to I saw this chart here for the first time. I'm going to afterwards get and make some slight modifications to this due to the fact that I don't want to be totally cut off, the police department to be totally cut off through the driveway there of us not being able to get to equipment or resources, but that's going to be a minor fix that we can take care of.
And then Nancy, one question for you. How many people here on all of our staff are going to be there? You? Anybody else? I want an accurate count. Marissa, Kat?
Marissa and Kat will be there. I plan on attending. Stephen Steinmetz, Eric Lohman, Dwayne Scognio. Who am I missing? Oh, Stanley George. That will...
Linda? Yes. Okay. Gentlemen out here, anybody going to attend also? All right. Mayor, I agree with you. I think this whole COVID thing is a manipulation of not only the country but the world. And I don't think from the very beginning, I think it was a bunch of BS. But I don't feel comfortable putting our police department and our staff here in jeopardy with the number with what's going on. And this is a complete change from what I said last month. I thought we should have gone ahead with the entire 4th of July celebration last month, but things are much different this month. That's all I have to say.
Sir.
Okay, multiple parts to this. Let's first go to the numbers. One of the keys that's worked in a lot of places around the globe, quite frankly, in dealing with the COVID infections is contact tracing. If we have no data coming in from Comal County or the government of Texas or whatever else, we have no way of doing that. We're working in a vacuum. Councilwoman Swint alluded to a local business that just had somebody that was there. We don't know if it was a patron or an employee test positive. We have no idea when that person was there, who they were in contact with, any way to trace any of it. That would make an absolutely massive difference in how we handle all of this. and I'll admit, some of it's a little bit, I don't want to say personally motivated, but this said business, one of my children goes to on a regular basis. So now I've got to make some more difficult decisions about what to do with quarantining. And we're making it based on no data. We have no idea what was going on other than that there was somebody there that was exposed or tested positive for it. We've got to get better data to work with. Okay, item 2, the 4th of July. And it sounds like a lot of us have a lot of concerns. After my 20 years in the military, one of my biggest things I always did was the what if, and do we have a bailout plan? What if 500 people show up in the parking lot and half of them don't want to wear their masks and they don't want to maintain social distancing? Now, this is a real possibility. We've seen it happen. When we did the coaches parade through the city for Davenport High School, there was a lot of people in closer contact than they probably should have been, given what orders we were under at that time. Not the coaches, they stayed in their vehicles, but people partying in their front yards, people dancing around, hugging each other, the whole works. A lot more social contact that should have happened. I don't know what's going to happen on the 4th of July, and I don't know if we've got a bailout plan, is what I'd call it. What's my bailout plan? What if we start crowding? Are we going to shut access to the parking lot off? And how do we propose to do that if I've got 8 police officers here and 50 people that don't want to comply? That's where my real concern is. I'd like to find a way that we could do it with 4 police officers so I don't have, a large portion of my police force out there and potentially exposed to that. I'd also like to try to figure out a way to do it where we really emphasize, hey, you can listen to it on the radio or you can watch it on our Facebook page. Please don't come out and join into a parade and have 500 cars in the parade. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I want to do this. I think it's important that we celebrate the birth of our nation, and I think that it's important that we don't let COVID fear, scare us away from doing things. But I have some real concerns. Do we have anything like a bailout plan if the crowd gets too big? What's the idea? We've got a great plan for executing it if it goes well. What happens now when, coming out of my background is engine number 3 catches on fire? Now what am I going to do? What's my plan to declare an emergency and back out of it?
Well, first of all, we have an executive order that says that more than 100 people can't be anywhere, okay, and that is enforceable. But if they're in their cars, it's no different than the Walmart parking lot. So if they stay in their cars, there's no issue. If they get out of their cars and they swarm the place because they're going to prove that they can all get together, then
there's nothing we can do.
Think that's going to happen here?
I would hope it doesn't happen here in Garden Ridge. But I know what happened when the bars opened up. We talked about that earlier. When the bars opened up, they were supposed to open up at 25% capacity, and I know some of the local establishments around here were cleaned back out, for lack of a better way to put it, because they were at their 100% capacity or above when they were supposed to be at 25%, and people just didn't want to comply. I would hope, and I honestly believe the citizens of Garden Ridge are smarter and better than that. But I'm worst case in the scenario to go, what if this happens? Just to see if we've thought about it. I do want to make this happen. I really, truly do.
Anything else? Pam?
Yes, first of all, I'm not personally afraid, so lest there be any concerns and floating around about that, I'm not personally afraid. What I'm most afraid of, aside, obviously we hope, cross our fingers that no one becomes infected because of this, but the appearance that it creates for the city of Garden Ridge, that we're more or less saying we don't have to follow the rules because people are not going to read between the lines. They're not going to go back and they're not going to count how many people, because there's going to be somebody that says there's 101 cars there. All it takes is for the press to show up and confront us, and I just don't think it reflects well on the city. So I do that. I say that, again, out of respect for the city. It's a huge disappointment. It would be a lot easier for me to say I don't think we should do it if Chuck Elia weren't involved, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity to honor him. Also, don't think we need to have an event to prove that we're patriotic. Whether you're in the service or not, you can be just as patriotic without a parade. I can be at home and be just as patriotic as someone raising a flag, and I mean no disrespect for that. I also question the idea that everyone there is there voluntarily, because we've heard from different departments that their attendance is actually compulsory, to use Ms. Trevino's word. They don't really have a choice to be there. And I also believe in the COVID. I do believe in science, and I do believe this is not BS.
Okay. I only spoke one time because somebody asked a question, but I have to go back to Councilwoman Swint. I asked the judge today how many cases we had in Garden Ridge, and he said he did not know. So I don't know how you know, but maybe we need to get you to talk to him because he doesn't know.
I know from the Comal County press releases.
The Comal County press releases say Garden Ridge area on them.
They didn't, if you look at them at the top, it says, it gives you a number, 120, 40 from New Braunfels, 2 from Schertz, 1 from Garden Ridge. And then when it goes down to the bottom, it totals it as Southern Comal County. But if you look at the top, every time they list.
Okay, in the beginning they did. In the beginning they did for the first 3.
They've never stopped listing it at the top. They've never stopped listing the location at the top. I went through press release by press release today.
All right. Again, our county judge doesn't know how many are here.
I can show you after.
Yes, we need to do that. And so, council, you know, you just need to make a motion and vote. You know how I feel about this. I think that you can, Councilman Arvidsson, you can what if it to death. We can what if the next time we do it in the park and say, what if, and then you fill it in. But the what ifs need to be realistic what ifs. And as far as liability and saying that people are going to catch it, because we went through a plan where nobody is going to be anybody that we have any control over, and anything that we endorse, nobody is going to be within 10 feet of each other, or 8 feet, excuse me, 8 feet with each other. Now, people show up to this outside of our event, and they get together. We don't have any control over that. And if you want a what if, what if we don't do anything at all? Are we going to have people say they're going to do something? And by the way, we won't be able to stop them unless they gather. And you mentioned 101 cars. There can be 200 cars. If they're in their car, there is no restriction on people gathering. It's people minus their vehicles that we have a problem with. If they're in their cars, there's no science that says it transmits through cars. So if they're in their cars, it's not an issue. They're not violating anything. And not only can we not do anything about it, but we probably don't need to. So we've talked about we don't want people to get this, and we're putting them in a position where they're going to get it. Any of the people that we have any control over, whether it's the people at the event or the people that are in the parade in their cars, we have something in place to prevent that from happening. And if they're going to get out of their car, they can very well get out of their car and walk up to somebody in the HEB parking lot too. We can't stop that either. And liability, there is none. And not only for the legal reasons, but the logical reasons that we're going way out of our way with diagrams, keeping people really far apart, checking their temperatures and asking them questions before they go anywhere near the inner circle of this. I mean, we're going through quite a bit to make sure that if anybody was to somehow allege that they came to this and got COVID, we'd say, how? We didn't let you get anywhere near anybody. Well, I was up the hill and I got out of my car and I talked to somebody else. Well, let's show you where we gave you a piece of paper when you came in the complex and said, don't do that. And if you did it after we said, don't do that, it's the same thing as Walmart saying, please wear a mask. Some of the Walmarts around here now are mandating it, but not all of them. And so it's somebody going in and then trying to get Walmart to be liable because they're going to say they got COVID in a Walmart because Walmart didn't mandate a mask. I mean, I'm understanding and I'm hearing what you're saying, and this is up to you, but I'm just really concerned that we are afraid of things that aren't there. And you know, we have to deal with this number thing, but all I have is what public health and the judge are telling me. And what I'm seeing is that they don't know how many are in Garden Ridge. And we'll talk about this and we'll look at this later on. But even if there are 14 in Garden Ridge right now, how does that have any bearing on what we're talking about doing for 4th of July?
Mayor, I have a question for you about numbers. Why is this parade at least 10 times larger than it's ever been in the history of Garden Ridge?
Because it's the only thing we're doing. We're not allowing hundreds of
Okay,
people
so that's
to
okay.
go to
That
the
makes
park.
it okay.
But the parade is so much larger with people in vehicles. They're not on flatbeds, they're not throwing stuff back and forth, they are in their own cars. Y'all were fine with the high school doing this. Y'all have been fine with the moms doing this when going and congratulating people on birthdays and everything else. It not only is it no different, but it is different because we're going so far out of our way to demand that people pay attention to the CDC guidelines.
That's not a good answer. This parade is at least 10 times larger than it's ever been. For what reason?
Because they can't do anything else. And first of all, for the record, we don't know how large it'll be. There may be only 20 people that decide they want to drive in this.
Okay, how about the route then? I'm talking about the route.
Okay, the route is big because we don't want people, if we did what we normally do, they'd all have to congregate. So we wanted to spread this out as much as possible because we don't want people congregating. And the way to keep people from congregating is to have a lot of space for them to spread out and maintain a social distance. That is exactly the reason why it's such a big route. We wanted to cover, I mean, the only neighborhoods, and you heard it from Parks Committee, we didn't cover some neighborhoods, much to our lament, because we can't get the truck turned around. But otherwise, we wanted to go to them instead of them coming to the park. So that's why it's such a big route. So, you know, I really don't intend for this to turn into a debate or an argument. And I feel that I needed to at least address some of the things that you said, but it's your decision. So, you know, I'll go back through one more time if you have anything you want to say, and then entertain a motion. And if you want to cancel the event, we'll cancel the event, and we'll move on. So we'll start over on the left side now. Councilwoman Bauer, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I believe you misunderstood I'm saying 101. That was merely an example, for example, of a manageable crowd. Yes, 100 is the magic number to be limited. I do know the difference between inside and outside, and you made a reference to afraid again. I will tell you for the 4th time, no, this would be the 5th time, I am not afraid. You seem to want me to say I'm afraid for some reason. I am not afraid. I am only afraid or concerned for the appearance. We don't know what percentage of Garden Ridge residents, are in support of this or not. Great, if 500 come out, that probably tells it it's the right thing. And it's not a reflection on what Mr. Chamberlain has done, because he's done a phenomenal job. I do not think that we could probably do any more than we've done. I'm not questioning that this is safe. I'm not questioning. I'm just saying the ramifications in the long run, nope. And you've not addressed the patriotism question, because I feel strongly about that. To cancel this does not mean we don't support the country, does not mean we are not patriotic, whether we've worn our uniform or not. Again, I can be at home and be just as patriotic. So it's an inference that I'm not very fond of.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't accuse you of being afraid up here. And second, I'm not sure, I don't understand what you mean by I didn't address the patriotism, because I'm not calling anybody's patriotism into question, and I have not.
Okay, the issues then I apologize. The issues I brought up dealt with patriotism and so on and so forth. So my point is, I don't want it to reflect on anyone who would support this or not support this, whether or not they're being patriotic, whether it's the right thing to do for the sake of the country and so on and so forth.
Fair enough.
That's my point.
Fair enough. Sir?
I keep thinking about this. I actually like the long parade route because it keeps people at home. And I'll say it again, I want to do this. I truthfully do. I think it gives something to the city. It gives people something that a sense of normalcy in the midst of a pandemic is a very important thing to have. And I think this at least gives us some sense of normalcy. We're doing a 4th of July parade. We had to change it because of COVID. We're going to go out and drive through the city. Everybody stay in your cars. If we really can emphasize to people, look, you've got to stay in your cars, and I'm going to look up at the camera and go to the live streaming that we're doing, and say, you've got to stay in your cars when we do the flag raising, you've got to stay in your cars when we're driving through the parade route, and you've got to not throw things out to people, then we make this happen. I'd like to see a way to do it with fewer police officers. If there's any way we could cull that down a couple, have them shuttle to intersections, or have GRCPAA block intersections, or I'll take my truck over and park it in the way so a cop doesn't have to go to that intersection to direct traffic. We just make sure nobody can come through. And I'm serious about that, by the way. I said it kind of chuckling, but maybe we can find a way to cut back the number of officers that have to be here to do it. I like this idea. I love the level of planning that's going into it. I've expressed my concerns as to the what ifs, and Mayor, you're right. You could what if this thing to death. You know, I could what if me getting run over by a truck as I drive home tonight too. And I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I guess I'm not on the fence. I want to make this happen. I just want to make sure we've got the emphasis really out to all the citizens that we're trying to do this, we want to do this, we want people to enjoy the 4th of July, but we got to do it in a safe fashion.
Sir? Ma'am?
Couple things, 2 or 3 things. Every city around us has canceled their celebration for a reason. And I don't think it's because they're afraid, I think it's because they're cautious. There was also some survey results that came out today from Texas Municipal League, and they were questioning mayors on whether they were either allowing events to happen or putting on events for their cities. And it was something like, it was either 84, I can't read my own handwriting, it's either 84 or 80%, 86% of mayors said no, they will not be the city would not be hosting any kind of 4th of July activities. And again, there's a reason for that. I still just find myself fiercely protective of the staff, the police, and the citizens. We all have to, assess what level of risk that we're comfortable with. And certainly, on a personal level, on a family level, we've taken some moderate risks. But as a representative of the city, I am going to err on the side of caution. I do not want any of our staff exposed. Yes, we can what if things to death, of course, but we just can't control everything. And this, it changes day by day. I don't want us to commit to something that is not 100% safe.
Sir?
Well, I kind of agree with Lisa, but you'll never get anything that's 100% safe. I'm so iffy on it. I can normally make up my mind on something, but this is tough.
I'm going to make a motion that we move to continue the flag raising ceremony based on the plan that you all have right here. and not have the, discontinue the parade.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, did you say continue with the flag raising and not do the parade as your motion?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a motion from place 3 to do the flag raising and to not continue with the parade. Get a second? Okay. That motion's apparently is going to die. Yeah. Does anybody want to offer up any other motions?
I move to cancel the 4th of July celebration this year.
I have a motion from place 2 to cancel the 4th of July celebration entirely. Correct? Entirely?
A second.
I have a second from place 3. Any further discussion? Right side. Left side. Okay, all in favor of canceling the 4th of July celebration in Garden Ridge, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, so I have place 2, place 3, and place 5 to cancel, place 1 and place 4 to not cancel. 4th of July celebration is canceled in Garden Ridge. Parks Committee, thank you very much for all the work you did. We'll put notices out to say everything's canceled, and City Administrator will go ahead and make sure that it gets on social media and all that. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We'll move on now to item number 11, updates. City Administrator reports. Ma'am. It's not on.
There we go. It is budget and tax rate time. Again, there is a calendar for the adoption process of the 2021 budget and the 2020 tax rate schedule. All of the highlighted areas are meetings, special meetings, and regular council meetings that the process will affect. Please look at your calendars and let either myself or the city secretary know if you have any conflicts with any of these dates. It's very important, of course, that special meetings, we have at least 5 council members present, and some of the actions will call for a larger majority vote on an action.
Yes, please, Council, take a look. These were sent to you, but as you know, particularly the special meetings, the requirement to have the supermajority. So if you have an issue with any of these dates, if you tell us early enough, we may be able to adjust to make sure we can get everybody there. But do the best you can to take a look at this and get some answers back to our city administrator. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, the next area we want to talk about is provide you with an update on the Oak Wilt. I'm going to ask Public Works Director Steinmetz to review what the current situation is concerning our recent outbreak, and then I will update you on some discussions we have had with some of the residents.
Mr. Edmondson with the Texas Forest Service evaluated the surrounding properties adjacent to Paul Davis Park to determine the trench route that we were going to need. As you can see on the map, the red is the proposed trench route. On June 19th, the city had a contractor out to give an estimate for June 19th, the city had a contractor come out to give an estimate on how much the containment trench would cost. And during that meeting, he discovered that where Mr. Edmondson put the original flagged trench route, that we found a oak tree that had fresh new stems. So that first, if you look on the map, the purple dot on 9005. If you can see that purple dot on 9005, the trench route that Mr. Edmondson originally made was between 9015 and 9005. So when we found out this tree was infected, we had to move it back over here. So the trench route's going to be between 9015 and this property right there next to it. We also, once we've discovered that, we met with the residents that were going to be affected by that on June 24th. Mr. Edmondson let them know what was going on with the moving of the trench, and we also had them come out to discuss cost sharing with the state, and had them sign some waivers saying that the Forest Service wouldn't be responsible for anything that happened on that trench, because they were basically out here just as advisory and flag out for the trench. That's all I have to report.
So this is a bit of a moving target, but I really appreciate what Mr. Steinmetz has done. We had a meeting.
We did?
And,
Oh, sorry.
and I'd ask if our city administrator would tell everybody about this, because it was a really productive meeting, and some people put a lot of work into it. So please let them know.
We had a meeting with the residents on June 24th, and what we have done is, through Mr. Edmondson, we as the city have put this, or applied for a grant through the state. The grant amount would be $3,000 to help abate the oak wilt, and it's only for the trenching. The trench length is probably going to increase by a couple of hundred more feet because of some adjustment in the line, but I don't think that's going to get us any more grant money to apply towards this. We reviewed the city's abatement program that the city has budgeted for and has implemented, and it has been used in the past, where property owners can be reimbursed up to 50% of the trenching cost, and our total budget amount is $10,000. So this fiscal year, we will be utilizing some of those funds. We are also, this is also going to involve the city cutting the roadway, trenching into the roadway. Stephen is in the process of working with one of the two contractors in the state of Texas that do this type of work, the trenching. He's going to be contacting line locates for utility lines, so those can be identified. Because at those locations, those areas have to be hand dug. That's what one of the things that increases the cost in these trenching projects. But we've got 5 property owners that we're working with at this time. As we find out more information, we will keep you informed of that. It's suspected that more than likely trenching would not begin until sometime mid-August at the earliest.
Thank you, ma'am. Starting on
You're
website
welcome.
questions for either Ms. Kane or Mr. Steinmetz.
No, thank you.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had an infected tree over in Paul Davis Park. Where was that?
About right in this area right here.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm in
so-
the wrong way. No, it's right,
Just farther down.
right there.
Right there. Do you think that these other three cases are as a result of that one, as in maybe the trenching didn't work, or it didn't go out far enough or something?
Mr. Edmondson seems to think that it jumped the trench somewhere around along the way, but he doesn't know where.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to 11B, Mayor's Projects, Communication. First of all, the census. We're still number 2. We're at 86.1%, and the little town of Mountain City up near Kyle is number 1 still. We've moved up in the national rankings. We're number 78 out of over 20,000, so it's actually pretty remarkable. And so keep telling your friends and neighbors to do the census and bring it into the home stretch. The sign, we're still working. We've actually consulted with the engineers too, so I've been out there, engineers been out there, Public Works. We've talked about how we're just going to be able to move the sign back. Obviously, we talked about why we want to delay it. There's multiple reasons. One, frankly, is that we don't think anything's going to happen out there for a while, but also because if we move it back to where we know we need to move it back, until they start doing any of the excavation to make room for the loon, it breaks down the sight distance to see the sign. So you're going to have to be a lot closer to the sign to see the sign. And so, again, if you drive by there in the middle of the night and you see a backhoe out there, get on the bat phone and let us know. Also, early voting is in progress. If you've looked at the ballot, it's a bit comical, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. You either have one question or two questions. But nevertheless, it's voting, and have your voice heard, and ask Ms. Spencer to tell us the wheres, the whys, wins, and all that.
So we are in the process right now of early voting. We're right in the middle of it. No matter how much we communicate that it is not physically here, we always have people come in here. It never fails. Today, actually, people came all the way into these doors when we were having a staff meeting looking for voting. So voting is at the Community and Event Center in the Blue Bonnet Room. The times change a little throughout the early voting period, and we've posted those on the website. They were on the calendar that went out. They were on the grapevine. They're on social media. I don't know of anything else we could possibly do, but we've tried it all, and we still have just a few people that just don't want to read all the signs they pass on their way telling them voting is the other way.
And they're very directive up there because there's social distancing up there. So you go on up there and they'll tell you when you can go inside and when you can answer your 1 or 2 questions and go on your way. Does anybody have any questions or comments on early voting? For
Marissa? No, not early voting, but I saw your sign when you walk in the door. They actually went right past that. Probably a curtain hanging down with that on it would get their attention. It's amazing.
Moving on to item 11B2, citizen contact. Tell you a couple of people, a couple of incidents, and a couple of people we've talked to recently. You actually, all of us, got a email from an individual concerned about speeding and some issues on Batcave. So I called her and talked to her, and she explained to me that she's seeing a lot of speeding. It's 35. She thinks it should be 30 there, and that they've hit some things out there, including one of her trees a while back. Told her that, well, actually, before I called her, I talked to our chief. He's made sure that all the officers patrol know he is detailed, and he has some details he's going to provide, but a lot of it happening late at night. And anecdotally, and no fact here, but I personally have done some Lyons Road cleanup on that road, and it is astounding how many empty liquor mini bottles are on the side of the road as they're cleaning it up. Yeah, I'm looking at this going, are people really driving down the road drinking these mini bottles and throwing them out the window? But they're on that area of Batcave. It's a mystery to me. But apparently, those are the people that are also running into trees and everything else. So hand it over to the chief to, but before I do, just to close it out, I did talk to her afterwards. I assured her that we are paying attention. I assured her that we're stepping up patrols. I assured her that, and then I also said, listen, if you see anything ever, don't hesitate to call 911. Don't wait till a day or a week later to tell us about something. Call 911 right now, okay? So she was very gracious about it, said she understood, and it's not closed because the department's working on it, but go ahead, Chief.
Thank you. So I went ahead and I read that email that was sent out to everybody, and I decided to run some stats. So I pulled every case report, every call for service we've had for the 5 blocks of Batcave Road from Shanethaw to our city limits, north or west, whichever way you want to call that, depending on how savvy you are with directions. So over the last 4.5 years, we've had a total of 36 calls for service. Now, out of that, though, many of these are just mundane neighbors reporting tall grass of neighbors. We've had cow in the road. We've had brush in the road. We've had an open door on a house. So there's a lot of things that are just miscellaneous things. Pertaining to what was discussed in the email, we have 6 incidents. I do have documentation of 4 deer that have been wounded to the point of seriously injured, or we had to dispatch in that section. And then we do have 2 times we've had mailboxes. One of those 2 was a mailbox and a tree together. So out of the last 4.5 years, I've got 2 actual property damage reports and 4 animal reports. Both times with the property, the property owners did not wish to pursue any charges, so they were never investigated to go any further with that.
So just wanted to close the loop, especially since you all had that email. So over on the left side, any questions for me having talked to the individual or for the chief for having investigated what's going on out there? Starting on the left side.
No, thank you.
Sir?
I am going to sound off on this because part of Batcave is also Canal County, so it's not in our city. And it just so happens to be coincidental where I live. It comes and goes in waves. The liquor mini bottles and beer cans are very much associated with the level of construction going on in that new subdivision down there. What's the name of that one? They're the Woods. It's very, very much related. I've had to have a conversation with one of the construction managers down there in the woods once, informing him very politely that perhaps his guys could throw their beer cans into, say, a trash receptacle instead of into my front yard. I do observe some people speeding on it. I'll commend the chief and the Canal County Sheriff's Department. When concerns are brought up, they do respond and they come out, and things get better for a little while and then they go fast again. So it's an ongoing battle. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and not in a good way.
True. Sir?
Chief, based on what you said and what this woman wrote in this letter, it sounded like there was massive amounts of trees being run into and a huge number of deer being killed. And that's not the case, is it?
I can only speak for what's been reported to the department, sir, and at this point, no. I've got 4 deer and 2 mailboxes and a tree.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate, Mayor.
And a snake in a fence.
You follow up on things like this, but sometimes it's just not necessary.
Well, we got to call him back. Anything else? Sir? Ma'am? Sir? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Chief and I spent a lot of time talking about a lot of people that call and write, and just publicly, I'm telling you, I really appreciate how much we can work together on this stuff. The other one is one that was brought up in this meeting last time, so I thought it was appropriate to bring it back to you. And it was a citizen that expressed concern about a building. I meant to get the address, and I forgot to get it. Do you happen to remember it? Chief, do you happen to remember the address? It's on Bat Cave. It's not too far from your house. If you took a left out of your house, it's a big new building that's built on the other side of Bat Cave. And the question was, hey, it looks like it's going to be another house. What's the deal with that? Is that authorized? I thought it wasn't authorized. I thought you couldn't have multiple structures. Well, we have the planning and zoning chair, and I could put him on the spot, but I won't. But the current ordinance says that if you have the appropriate setbacks and you have the room, Councilwoman Bauer can attest to this as well, and it's connected by concrete, then you can get a permit, which this person did, and you can build this building, which this person did. So, and I've had more than one person ask about this, and from what I understand, the police have been asked about it, and our building inspector has been asked about it. So it's been an item of concern of some citizens, but strictly by the book, strictly by the rules, this person followed the rules, got the permit, has it connected by concrete, and I just wanted to get that back to you because it was brought to you in this meeting last time. Ms. Kane, do you have anything else to say about that? Don't have to, just checking. Chief, do you have anything else to say about it? You may or may not know what building I'm talking about, but if you go past Councilman Arvidsson's house and look to the right, you're going to see a really big new structure that it's an interesting, it's a nice big building, but it's unfortunately, or fortunately, no, further down, further towards 2252, but on the same side of the road.
There was only one permit issued in June anyway on Bat Cave, and it's for a pool.
Yeah, this was issued quite a while before.
Right.
Yeah, it's been there for a while too. Nevertheless, just wanted to make sure that you heard that. Any questions or comments from anybody right side? Ma'am, sir, ma'am. Okay. Okay, that concludes item number 11. Item number 12, discussion of future agenda items, starting on the left side. Anything you want on future agenda items?
Not at this time, thank you.
Sir? Sir? Ma'am? Sir? Okay. Closing out 12, going to 13. 13 is citizen comment period. Remember, citizens, you don't have to have signed up to speak to this one. You have 2 minutes. After you get up here, we won't start the count till you've said your name and address. Please remember that we can't interact with you when you're doing it. But as you just saw, if you speak this time, if it's something that we need to follow up on, we will follow up, and I'll brief the council and everybody that watches afterwards. After you speak, go over to the table, and Ms. Spencer is obviously making sure there's a piece of paper over there for you to sign up so we have a record of who spoke. So that said, 2 minutes. Any citizen, would you like to speak? Come on up, please. And you're going to go just to the table? Have we cleaned that mic off since you've used it? The answer is yes. So, is the mic on?
8927 Garden Ridge Drive. On the subject you were just speaking on, I don't know exactly what they got an okay for permits for, but I can tell you, I went over there and looked today. I drove into the driveway. I thought maybe there might be garage doors on that extra building that's been built there, but there aren't, so it's not for an extra garage. It doesn't appear with double French doors and another French door there that it's something that they're going to be using as a shop building. So the only thing I can figure out is it's going to be used for, maybe for a guest house or something. But I did not see any connection of concrete to the main house, so I don't know how close anybody else looked that checked it. but, or maybe I didn't look close enough, but I didn't see anything there, and there's a very large distance between that building and the main house. So it would have to have been a lot of concrete between the two. And the only reason I raised a question and asked the mayor about it was because we're not supposed to be building, at least up until, unless the rules have changed, we're not supposed to be allowing buildings to be built that could be rented out by owners at some point in time to someone. And that's why the rules have been the way they are. At least they've been that way pretty much since we've been out here, since the mid-'80s. So that's why I brought it to the attention, because it's just very easy for someone to say it's there for this purpose when it's really going to turn out to be for a different purpose. So I don't know how much else you want to follow up on that, but that was my observation as late as this afternoon. And I wanted to congratulate the parks people on all the hard work that they've done on the 4th of July, and it was very interesting to see the different opinions about how to go forward and celebrate the 4th of July. And I think probably the conclusion...
Ma'am, I gotta jump in and tell you your time's up. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, thank you for all your time.
Mayor, 19877 back here.
Thank you. Any other citizens? Oh, yes, please, Ms. Fritz, don't forget the sign over on the sheet and on the table. Thank you. Any other citizens? Once, twice? Okay, I'm going to close out item number 13 and go to 14, reports and comments. Mayor and city council members, please keep in mind, it's the things on this list that we'll be reporting on if you have had any contact or have any information on any of these. Starting over on the right side, sir. Ma'am. Sir. Sir. Ma'am. Okay. Closing item number 14, going to item 15. City council will recess its open meeting and reconvene in the executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551-0711 and 0712, consultation with attorney. There are 4 items on here tonight. Seek legal advice in connection with deliberating the purchase, lease, exchange, or value of real property regarding related negotiations for city building projects and utility projects. Number 2, seek legal advice in connection with the lease, exchange, or value of real property regarding potential donation of property to the city and related negotiations. Number 3, to seek legal advice regarding requirements for Comal County emergency services and authority to contract for such services through an interlocal agreement. And number 4, a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Texas Government Code Chapter 551, city obligations / duties and liability, regarding certain internal personnel investigation, police department complaint. We're going, and everybody, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we got to do it in here because we don't have enough room to socially distance in our back room like we would under normal circumstances. So we're going to have to clear the room for these executive sessions, and then when we're done, the room will be opened back up. So we're recessing at 8:57 and 10 minutes. So 9:10. Planned executive session time will be 9:10. Thank you very much. Okay, council, we are now going to reconvene and come out of executive session for the Wednesday, July 1st, 2020 meeting at 10:20. And moving on to item number 16, business items. Does council have any business items to address as a result of discussions in executive session? Right side? Left side? Okay, having none, move on to item number 17, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? I got place 4 with a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? Second. Place 3 with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 10:20 p.m. Thank you very much.